Attention nonprofits of Center County. CNET can help with your marketing needs. Twice a year, CNET offers PSA Days, a time when you can have an affordable, professional public service announcement video produced to fit your 21st century advertising needs. Choose your level of involvement. We can come to shoot video at the location of your choice, or you can provide us with images and language and come sit in while we edit. If you're too busy saving the world, leave all the work to our professional staff and simply give us guidance, feedback, and approval of the finished product. Choose a package that fits your needs. CNET's low pricing includes script support, graphics, professional video production, editing, and airtime for up to 1 year with the option to continue or make a new video at the end of the term. We have an easy, affordable solution for your nonprofit organization. Contact us today for more information at 814-238-5031.
Are you looking to stay active and healthy in the comfort of your own home? CNET has a variety of exercise programs designed to help you stay fit and increase strength and flexibility. Strength training, moving freely, and zesty chair exercises all work on improving flexibility, ease of movement, and core body strength. Gentle Yoga is a specifically designed yoga program that is easy on the joints and easy for beginners. Chair Yoga has been created for those with limited mobility. CNET's exercise programs air several times each week on Channel 98 CETV. For specific airing times, please visit cnet1.org and click on CNET Schedules, or call CNET at 814-238-5031. Nothing good on TV? You're just not watching the right channels.
You're watching CNET, Center County's Government and Educational Access Network.
At this point, I'm going to call to order the Thursday, September 18th regular College Township Council meeting. First item on tonight's agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can stand, I would ask that you stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, that takes us to public open discussion. This is an opportunity for anybody online or in the room to address council on something that's not already on tonight's agenda. Looking online first, I don't see any hands raised. Anybody waving? In the room. Anything that's not on tonight's agenda? Great. New agenda, that takes us to new agenda items. Anybody here at the table like to suggest a new agenda item for either tonight or a future meeting? Anybody in the room? Opportunity to request a new agenda item for either tonight or a future meeting? Online? Nope. All right, that takes us to special presentations, which tonight we don't have any. That takes us to plans, and we also don't have any plans. So that takes us right into reports. Tracy, you haven't missed anything. Good time. She knows when to get here. All right, that takes us to reports. Item A under reports is the manager's report. We have a report in our packet tonight. Does the manager have anything to add in addition to what's in the packet?
I do not, but I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that council may have.
All right, you heard them. Anybody have questions? No?
No.
Outstanding. That takes us to COG, Regional, County, and Liaison reports. Somewhere I have my list of COG meetings. Ah, there it is. First meeting after our last meeting was Climate Action and Sustainability, which I understand was canceled.
Canceled.
All right. Right after that, then we had Public Safety. Susan?
I didn't attend but got a report. Public Safety passed a resolution authorizing a grant application for the Code Administration to place a grant to the state local share account for financing the EV structure at the COG building. And they also recommended to Finance Committee and General Forum a commitment to purchasing a fire truck so that we could order that early and get a break and also avoid future cost overages. It'll take 5 years to build out the truck. So that should be coming up through Finance and General Forum. And they were done in a half hour.
No.
They got to work, they got it done, they got done. So,
Questions for Susan on public safety? All right. Actually, that's same day. Finance met for the first of 4 meetings between our last meeting and tonight. Rich, you want to tackle that meeting, or can you summarize them all?
Sure. Our 4-hour meeting on Tuesday bumped public safety out of the general forum room, but yeah, so we had 3 presentation sessions, 4 hours, 3 hours, another 3 hours, and then today was another 3 hours where we actually took action. I would encourage you to watch CNET if you really want to know all the nitty gritty and everything, but when we got through with it, it resulted in a municipal share increase of no more than 5.7%. They're still doing some reconciliation of some various funds and what fund balance is going to be used to cover those. The SIGC document provided a great reference point for me to move forward. There was several significant changes, however, from what we reviewed and commented on with the SIGC. The biggest ones of those would be the fire captain had received unanimous support, and it went into the base budget as opposed to an add-on, so that was a large chunk. And then also, if you remember from General Forum, we took action on 2 electric vehicles, and those then moved out of the 6C and they were already into the base budget. So of note, I think the big ones were the big 2, the last 2 I would offer. So there was roughly 29 items that we brought back to discuss today, and all but 13 had unanimous consent, and we moved those forward, and then we took votes on each of the individual items that weren't a clear unanimous. Some of them ended up being unanimous, but it gave the opportunity for individual members of individual municipalities to register any concerns on individual items and stuff. So I think that was a worthwhile, first time I'd used that process and everything, and I think it went pretty well. And again, at the end, we got to the 5.7, which the guideline, although we didn't really adopt it early like we probably should have, the guideline was 5.98. So we got all of the add-ins under the status quo budget amount. So felt pretty good about that.
That's a 4 meeting summary? That's pretty good. Hey, questions for Rich? Just for the record, that's 4 meetings in 2 weeks, all of which were, what, about 3 hours long?
wow.
Plus the prep before.
I'm going to put you on the spot just a sec. At exec, it was noted that we were a dissenting vote on one of those, one of the items you talked about where you took a vote. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there anything worth noting for us on that?
No, again, I used the prioritization matrix. The 2 items that that have definitely voted against were additional vehicles at code until we see a fleet management plan. Language was put into the motion that needs to come. The executive director has promised that for this year, but we've been saying it for how long? So I put it down as a no.
Well, I'll say as someone who's been pushing for the fleet plan for a long time, I appreciate.
Yeah, I would provide that too, since I like planning so much. And
Yeah, we were able to work through a couple other ones. There was a question about some of the work at the fire station under capital improvement, but we were able to work through that and find a way. We worked through at Hess Field. One of the things that was on there was lighting at Hess Field. 2 elements to that. One, taking down what is, because it's a liability, in my opinion. And then 2, what do we do next? It was it was clear there was no support of doing lights at Hess until Hess is in its final form. So there was discussion about doing lights at Oak Hall, but we proposed some seed money, some local match type money, so that hopefully staff can go find, as they did at Whitehall, a grant towards installing lights at Oak Hall.
Yeah, that came up in exec, and well, I think it was about $10,000 budgeted to remove
Yeah.
lights. And there was one other Hessfield-related issue that had to do with aggregate replacing the pathway. Was that it?
The staff
Deferred?
staff pulled that prior, so we didn't even take a vote on that.
Okay, questions for Rich?
And there'll be a full, once COG staff has had an opportunity to reconcile and identify what fund balance is going to be used where, I'll send that around and everything. But for College Township, it appears that even with all those stuff, we should be flat from last year. So that'll help Adam in his budgeting.
Yeah, it's very good news. A lot of work went into that, though.
All right. On behalf of staff and the rest of council, I want to express my appreciation to our finance committee rep for that work. It was pointed out at exec today that the past 6 COG budgets have put together by 7 different combinations of executive directors and finance directors. The point is that somebody's done a pretty good job given that challenge. That we're where we are right now. So thanks again. That would then take us to the MPO meeting last night. What I'll do is I'll provide a written report. There was nothing township specific that I needed to update everyone on tonight, but as soon as the staff report comes out, I'll forward it along with my thoughts. And then we had exec today, and there were 4 agenda items that I'll just give you a heads up on for general forum. The first of which is the referral of the COG budget to the member municipalities for our adoption of the local share. Unfortunately, I did not catch this at the meeting, but the motion included that the comments be referred to the COG executive director by 8 a.m. on October 16th. That's, sorry, Rich, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just to confirm, it's to the municipalities for comment prior to going to general forum for adoption, which then would come back to the municipality for adoption.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got 2 months ahead. But October 16th is the morning of our second meeting in Thursday, in October. Does our agenda for October, our first October meeting, would accommodate this, or can we ask a general forum to simply move that date back so we have 2 meetings in October too?
So so number one, we published a schedule at the beginning of the year to prime folks to make sure that they got it on the agenda. We actually had to move our meeting to accommodate the comment schedule and everything. There isn't much wiggle room because the municipalities want it for their budgets. And so, moving it around much it's not available.
As it stands at the moment, I don't believe that it's going to be too heavy a lift to incorporate as part of the October 2nd agenda.
Well, and again, my goal is once it's reconciled to send out enough information that you're well informed before we get to that, and we could make it fairly quick in just under the report section, really, if you run into it.
Okay, then we'll leave that be. That's good. The second item is, and I'm just going to read out of read from the exec agenda, is the resolution 2025-7, a resolution authorizing a grant application for EV infrastructure at the COG building. We will all recall the protracted discussion on this at the last General Forum meeting. Well, something's changed since then. A different grant source has been identified. Safety, I think, is aware of this. Finance has vetted this. So what we're going to be asked to do at General Forum is to adopt a resolution so that staff can pursue a different grant for this, and it's one that would pay for the entirety of the project with no local match, approximately $450,000. Just heads up here, what it says in the agenda I think is important, and it's also significant. The Center Region Council of Governments is seeking to apply for grant funding through the PA Gaming statewide local share account established under the PA Racehorse Development and Gaming Act. This program, administered by the Commonwealth Financing Authority, distributes gaming revenues to support projects of public interest throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So the grant application is asking for $475,000 that would cover the installation of at least 14 charging ports, along with any of the required electrical and site improvements. As I noted, it doesn't require a local match, which is obviously very attractive, but it does require a resolution to be adopted at General Forum. So this is mostly for Dustin and Tracy. You guys have heard and seen this. But I think it's really good news. Again, this is a discretionary grant. There's no guarantee. In fact, I think applications are taken until the end of November, so we won't find out probably till December. But I thought, unfortunately, we didn't have that. We could have saved a lot of time at the last General Forum meeting, but anyways.
Well, I don't know about that. I think there's still opinions on what is or hasn't, but one of the things, the key things of the revised plan was that there will be public-facing units available, as well as for the COG.
Even better. And then the other two, the first was the aerial truck that Susan referenced, that both Public Safety and Finance had recommended, and then HR and Finance had vetted and recommended the employee dental vision changes. So it's, the only other thing that came up at exec was during public discussion, I floated the idea of, I hate to bring this up, but given the current political climate, revisiting our, for lack of a better term, active shooter training. You know, we had done something here in-house, but it's probably time to kind of update that training at the COG building for General Forum. I don't want to be an alarmist, I'm just saying, you know, at this point it probably makes sense. We have the resources, we have the availability through either the Ferguson Township Police or here we use the Borough Police, just to do a little refresher training. And exec was very much open to that. So what we decided was that we'll turn it back to safety for their recommendation. But whenever that recommendation comes then back to us, I assume it will go straight to exec, that there shouldn't be any opposition to that.
We'll work with staff on putting something together.
All right. I believe that concludes the COG committee reports. HR didn't meet, did they?
They met last time.
Oh, that's right. That would then take us to county and liaison reports. I know Janet said she didn't have a report for tonight. Do we have anything on any other liaisons? Spring Creek, anybody? Do I have anything?
I had CTIDA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go there.
Just a couple of things. I shared the information that we're still in the working group with the single-use plastics ordinance. So there was some concern about that, so I need to get with Mike to get information to Carrie that may have already happened. Just an opportunity for some of the members of the IDA to provide feedback, along with some of the surveys and things that are going out. The Small Business Beautification Grant, the second round is open from September 1st through September 30th, and that's, I believe, $5,000 grants for businesses in the Gateway Corridor to help us, the YBC had just received a grant, and I think the barbecue place also received a grant. So the second grant opens up for 3 more businesses through September 30th. So if there are any businesses in the community in that Gateway corridor, they can get in touch with Carrie Miller and submit their application. And then, the CTIDA continues to progress. They've got their strategic plan, and now they're working on looking at their committee structure so that they can align more of the committee work with their strategic goals, their annual strategic goals. So a lot of work being done to get them moving along and get restructured. So they look good.
Any questions for Susan? Any other liaison reports? If not, then we will move to staff, PC, and other committee reports. Staff, anything to report on maybe the 150th or anything that's going on this week with that?
So tonight this afternoon we met at the Granary in Lamont and cleaned it up, getting it ready for Soup and Song, which starts tomorrow evening, Friday, September 19th. It starts at 5:30 with soup, and 7 will be song. 7 o'clock will be song. So we hope everyone can join us. We'll be giving out tickets, $5 for the soup. Harrison's is going to be catering, so we have plenty. And then we've been talking a little bit more too about our event coming up in November. So we hope to see you all there.
Questions, comments? I just have one. Was the soundtrack for Footloose playing while you were cleaning up the granary?
Possibly. In our heads, maybe.
All right. That's an 80s thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That then takes us to PC. Matt?
Yeah, I'm Matt Fenton, the PC liaison. 3 things. On Tuesday night, we heard the Center Care preliminary final subdivision plan. Center Care used to be called Center Crescent. They moved to the Township. It's actually like a 13-acre lot being subdivided into a 7-acre lot and a 6-acre lot. They requested a whole bunch of waivers for trees, sidewalks, sewer, all that stuff. We decided it'd be better to put a deferral in there. And the engineer was okay with that. We also put in an extra thing that any land development plans for the lots 2 and A must comply with all requirements under SADA, which is pretty reasonable. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Questions for Matt? I think everybody wants to get to the next part of the report.
Well, the second one is we heard the development of regional impact for the PAM healthcare. It's a rehab hospital adjacent to Innovation Park. It's going to be 5.824 acres, 41 EDUs. The property's outside but contiguous with the road boundary and the sewer boundary. On September 8th, the Senate Region deemed that the DRI application was complete, and they agreed with the general conclusions. We discussed it at length. 2 of our members sort of thought that that the DRI had merit. One thing we requested is a physical document saying that the sewer, the only way to have a sewer was connecting through, local authority. That was actually the minority. We only had 5 of the 7 members. 3 voters, which was majority, they wanted a more detailed land development map for the sewer and water. Also, a more detailed map for the actual site. And there was questions about, as far as the road and it being contiguous. So they voted to 3 votes to table it, 2 votes to with merit. So any questions on any of that?
So it was tabled.
The whole, whether the DRI had merit. So it would either go, we table it, or it would go on to be reviewed by you folks.
Okay. Questions for Matt on that?
And staff, feel free to weigh in if they would like.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, at this stage in the DRI process, it's incumbent upon the applicant to complete the DRI report and submitted to the Center Region Planning Agency for their review. This report had been submitted on several different times to Center Region Planning Agency. Center Region deemed it to be complete, or at least complete enough, that it could go back to the College Township Planning Commission. And essentially, at this stage in the process, the action or the recommendation that is being sought from the Planning Commission is whether yes or no, that there is in fact merit for the consideration of expanding the growth boundary. And should and when the Planning Commission makes that recommendation, then comes to council for a similar consideration of yes or no, does this have merit? And at that point then, after council takes its action, the process allows for this to go back to the Center Region Planning Commission, who will then again take a more formal action that allows council to see it again and finally make the approval. So at this point in time, while I respect the concerns expressed, the concerns that have been expressed by the Planning Commission, that's a level of detail based on the reporting that is not likely to be available. So I think that at the next hearing of this item with the Planning Commission, we'll need to make that clear in terms of what the parameters are and try to provide the necessary guidance to the Planning Commission so that a recommendation either way can get to council.
Okay. Questions on that?
Okay. The third thing in our ongoing journey of form-based code, we discussed open spaces, and between the staff and the consultant, they recommend that open spaces, lots with greater than 5 acres, they're recommending 5% open space, which is down from our current recommendation of 30. And lots of less than 5 acres, they're recommending public open space. Backwards, okay, yeah. Greater than 5 acres, I'm sorry, yeah, I did. Greater than 5 acres, they're recommending 5% public open space. Less than 5 acres, just recommending open space. And they did put a whole bunch of notes in there what it should be developable land, which includes right-of-ways, water bodies, wetlands, deep slopes, floodplains, stormwater management facilities, which is the big thing, easements that protect public building, probably the prohibited building. And, you know, a couple meetings back, Mark made a recommendation to go and walk downtown. Back then we were talking about building heights and things like that. And, you know, I went to the library like 3 times. I went to a couple of high school football games. And, you know, trying to look out and decide what this appropriate number is pretty hard. You know, I mean, I'm walking down there and looking at the buildings and I'm like, you know, do I really want that? But also I understand that, you know, moving forward, you know, probably we do want that. So it's really a tough pull. Anybody have any questions on it?
So the open space difference and change is allowing more density is what we're saying.
Correct, and probably the big thing in staff and weigh in is, I know like stormwater, some places stormwater retention ponds are allowed as open space, they would not be allowed under the new.
Right.
And they're looking to like, you know, developable land.
That's open space.
Other questions or comments? I would just say that, you know, I think we all understand that this is tough. We're in new territory here. You know, we really don't have form-based code zoning district down the street to look at. So, you know, this is going to be a challenge. So I know we appreciate the deliberations, and I think we respect the concerns or the you know, the position that's put you in.
Finally, for Lindsay and Katie, there was this couple, they decided to celebrate. They went out to a pretty high-end restaurant, and the person waved to the waiter, said, "Come on over here," and she said, "You know, my soup tastes kind of funny." And the waiter said, "Well, why aren't you laughing?"
Very appropriate.
And he's out.
He's out.
Mic drop.
Yep.
He's left the house.
Okay, I don't think we have any other, I don't think we have anybody that could follow that, so unfortunately we don't have. That would then take us to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging report. We had our main report earlier this month. Mike, anything to follow up on?
Yeah, nothing additional to add to the main report that you had earlier.
Okay. This agenda item is also on here to allow anyone in the room or online to address council on any diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging issues. I'm looking online, I'm looking in the room. Other council members? Okay, we'll move off of that. That concludes all of our reports. It takes us to the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda has one item under CA1 minutes. That's the minutes of the September 4th, 2025 College Township Council regular meeting. CA2, which is correspondence, again includes only one item. CA2A is the 2025 Pennsylvania Municipal League PML resolutions. And CA3 action items. Under that, there are three. A is a contract 25-13 pipeliner bid. CA3B is the appointment of Mr. Joe Feo to the College Township Water Authority, and CA3C is the easement agreement for Clearwater Conservancy. Before entertaining a motion, the chair will ask that CA3B be pulled for discussion. Does anybody have any others they would like pulled? Dustin?
Yeah, oh, sorry, yeah. I want to pull CA2A. Thanks.
Right. That leaves us with CA2 or CA1A, the minutes from our earlier this month meeting, and the two action items under CA3, contract for the pipeliner bid and the easement agreement for Clearwater. Do I have a motion to accept those items under the council consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Anything from the public on those consent agenda items? All in favor then, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, I'll go first. CA3B was in here because we anticipated having a interview today, or prior to this meeting. Unfortunately, that couldn't happen, so I would like to offer council the opportunity. We could still appoint Mr. Feo, but I would like to offer council members the opportunity, if desired, to reschedule that interview, because we would have another meeting before the first Water Authority meeting. So what's the pleasure? I have no problem with setting an exec session for the interview.
Yeah.
If that's the desire. I mean, Rich and I are familiar with the candidate, but
Yeah.
I don't think the three of you are, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of our deal, right? It's our precedent that we at least meet with them once.
Yeah, I mean, he is a former member, so he'll give us at least a rationale for not interviewing him, but if we want to stick with process, we have time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
All right, then we will not adopt that. We'll set that aside. I'll work with staff to schedule an exec session or prior to the next meeting. By the way, since we're on it, will that work for everybody?
The next meeting?
Yeah, I'll be at PML, so.
Okay.
But I was planning on getting on the meeting, but the exec would be difficult.
Okay, so you could remote in earlier?
Probably, yeah. I mean, we
Okay.
could call in, yeah.
At least get you on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then that's what we'll plan to do. We'll set that CA3B aside. CA2A, I wanted to pull this to give Dustin an opportunity to introduce the resolutions and maybe seek comment.
Yeah, really, guys. So in the supplemental, I believe it's in the supplemental, you should see the full packet. This afternoon or before this meeting, I kind of tried to digest it down into a summary that I have in front of me. But essentially, I'm just looking for your feedback on whether you agree to how they're written, and if there's any specific things you want to bring up that, I would bring up and represent, council as a whole, or if you would say, we reach a consensus and say, no, we don't support that resolution. So there's 7 in total. The first one is essentially a retention of old resolutions that were passed, and they call them policies that were passed back in 2021. And so they're listed as, so they're under number 1, they're listed as number 2, 3, 4, and 5. And they're the preservation of local government transportation funding, the reform of the liquid fuels distribution formula, the relief from vexatious requests under the right to know law, and development of a local elected official training program at the state level. Does anyone have any, I'll just say, does anyone have any beef with any of those things? How about that? All right, no beef? That's a yes. All right. All right, so now these are the new resolutions. So 2 is the NLC's 2025 National Municipal Policy Statement and Federal Action Agenda. So this resolution, this is basically that italicized portion underneath. This resolution adopts the NLC's 2025 National Municipal Policy Statement as well as its 2025 Federal Action Agenda. Any issues or beef with that?
No beefs?
No beefs?
No, I agree with it all.
Okay. Are you a yes for all?
On all that, yes.
All right. All right. I'm gonna start going rapid fire. Tell me if you want me to slow down. Number 3 is the fire insurance escrow law update. Anybody have any beef with that one, or any specific comments? Yes. Good.
I hear no.
Good.
Support.
Support.
Yep.
Oh wait. What was it? When Paul was? It was super confusing on what you supported and didn't support. Remember that?
That's right.
Yeah. This is a little easier. Number 4, expansion of the Heart and Lung Act eligibility.
Yes.
Support?
Support.
All right. Number 5, expansion of tax exemptions without replacement revenue. Support?
Yes. Support.
All right, any specifics that you want me to bring up? No? All right. Number 6, business gross receipts and business privilege tax repeal.
Going once, twice, sold.
All right. And obviously, if anybody has any specific comments, you can bring them to me before I go. And then right to know AI request is the final one. That's number 7. That resolution supports amending the right to know law to allow a local government to reject anything that is suspected to be an AI generated request.
Yes. Support.
Support?
I think we get no beef from staff also.
Support.
Okay, that's all I had. Yeah, and again, if you have any specific comments to them as you have time to look over them a little more, just let me know and I'll bring them forth and represent you guys well in Erie.
I know we will. Then with that, the chair will accept a motion to accept item, CA2A, 2025 Pennsylvania Municipal League PML resolutions.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Remaining consent agenda item accepted. That concludes the consent agenda. That takes us to old business. Tonight we have 4 items under old business, the first of which is OB1, Casino Local Impact Report. Tonight, well, actually, let me let Mike kick this off.
Sure, I appreciate
This is a
that.
potential action item, but I want to hear from staff, and we have our consultants online also for consider action.
All right, well, I'm going to do just a quick introduction, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Suzanne and Scott. Again, this is a continuation of a long discussion that we've been having in relation to the casino at the Nittany Mall. As you recall, back in November of 2024, the township issued a request for qualification seeking a consultant to perform our independent Category 4 mini casino local impact analysis. The intent of that analysis is to provide you, council and staff, as well as future councils and staff, with data and better information to inform development of future policies, programs, and projects that serve to mitigate any negative impacts associated with being the host community, as well as maximizing any benefits that come from being the host community. In April of this year, College Township Council contracted with Convergence Strategy Group to complete the impact analysis. Convergence has a deep history with this type of work and performed well through the interview process and RFQ process and ultimately received that selection and contract. Their analysis is aimed at evaluating the potential social, demographic, real estate, and economic impacts that this new casino may have on the township, the surrounding areas, as well as the student population of Penn State University. The final casino impact analysis was issued on September 15th. That was included in your agenda packet tonight, and that's what Suzanne and Scott will present here momentarily. I do want to formally introduce Suzanne Leckert, AICP, and Dr. Scott Fisher from Convergence Strategy Group. They are two principals as well as the two consultants that have worked on this process, and I'm going to turn that over to them and let them walk through their overview, some of the history, background, their process, as well as the findings on this report. So without further ado, Suzanne and Scott, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, and thank you everyone for having us join your meeting today. To the council, to the community at large. Thank you very much. My name is Suzanne Leckert. I'm founder of Convergence Strategy Group, and my partner, Dr. Scott Fisher, he's joining us today as well. And Mike, you can go ahead and go to the first slide. Okay. Okay. So as Mike had indicated, College Township hired our firm, Convergence Strategy Group, to provide a casino impact analysis in May of this year. My partner, Dr. Scott Fisher, who I mentioned, and you'll meet in a few minutes. His educational and teaching background is in economics and finance, and he spent the last 30 years studying the gaming and leisure industries worldwide. He's a true expert in the field. Myself, I'm a certified professional planner, and I got my start in public service, first with the U.S. Senate, then with the city of New Orleans. Then I shifted my career to the private sector, and I've been focused on the gaming and leisure industries for the last 20 years. We have a team of research analysts and collaborators that work for us and with us, but Scott and I are the core of Convergence Strategy Group. And collectively, we have more than 50 years of looking at this industry, working with municipal and state governments, developers, gaming companies, all trying to understand the revenue potential and the impacts of casino projects. We've assessed over 500 casino and resort projects in 40 states, 38 countries, 6 continents. So this is what we do. And we can go to the next slide. Well, actually, Scott, say hello real quick. So everybody knows. All right. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So, I'm just going to start with a very quick overview of the history of the casino process in College Township and what we were tasked with addressing. Because it's sometimes very helpful to kind of go back and see, how did we get to this point? Go to the next slide. Yes. So it all started back in 2017 when the state legalized Category 4 or mini casinos as a new casino type. Initial rounds of bidding for the licenses that were back in 2018, and then again in late 2020. The bid was won for a Category 4 license here in College Township. At the time, the winning bidder had just partnered with Bally's as their casino operator. Bally's dropped out late last year, just before we started this process with College Township. And Saratoga Casino Holdings was brought in as the new partner. Again, College Township hired us in May to help understand what all this is going to mean for your community. Okay, we can go next. Okay, so in response to your request for qualification proposals, we developed a work plan that included fiscal and socioeconomic impact analyses, a social impact analysis, and a socio-demographic impact analysis. So in this first task, we needed to determine the likely demand patterns for the casino, as the impact of a casino is largely related to not just its physical size, like the number of slot machines, table games, etc., but to the number of people who visit it, where they come from, and how much they're spending. So this independent gaming market assessment is the backbone of most of all the other projections that needed to be made. Giving you how much tax revenues could be expected, from what sources. So this is also really important when we look at metrics like how many calls for public service are to be expected and other negative externalities, because that's largely related to the volume of visitors that can be expected to the casino. Simultaneously, our firm conducted a social impact analysis of the potential negative impacts. We reviewed the data and studied other casino communities in Pennsylvania and elsewhere in the Northeast to uncover what their actual experiences have been. In addition to our initial visit to College Township, personally visited every single one of the Category 4 casinos in Pennsylvania and met with the public officials from each community. We had face-to-face meetings and then subsequent communications over the last few months. And they've all been very, very helpful. And from them, we heard firsthand what they've experienced since the casinos opened in their communities. And so then next, to help College Township, we also established baselines. That's data that's included in the report that you received. And those baselines are what you can measure the impacts of the casino against in the future. Now, I'd like to take you through some of the finer points of the work we did and what we found. Okay, the next slide. Okay, so at the outset, we started with research. And this is, what formed this independent gaming market assessment. In addition to public sources like the census, we drew from very sophisticated proprietary sources such as ESRI, which nearly every government agency relies on for their GIS. And then we gathered data on behavior patterns. We analyzed mobile phone tracking data for the region, as well as mobile phone tracking data for those that visit every other casino in Pennsylvania. That mobile phone tracking data is something that we found is just invaluable, able to accurately model markets. I do want to assure you, however, that while this data is incredibly useful, the data we purchase is anonymized and privacy compliant. I just want to clear that up. Now, with all this data in hand, we then model the potential visitation and resulting revenue generation of the casino. From the regional population, we built what's called a drive time-based gravity model at the zip code level. For the tourism segment, for the event and football games segment, we built separate models as well. One thing I also want to note is that we compared our forecast with those that that you guys were provided with by ESI back in 2021. That's a study that was done for the previous bidder, but with data from back in 2020. And so we did that comparison, and you see that in your report. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so bear with me for just a moment. We're going to give you a quick summary of our demand model results. As I mentioned before, it's the foundation behind all of the quantitative projections that we have in our report and today's presentation. So just bear with me if it's the latter you're concerned with, the other impacts, but we need a handle on these metrics first. So just as background, there are currently 17 casinos in operation in Pennsylvania. The casino at Nittany Mall is the final license made available. If you look at the table that we have here on the screen, Category 1 casinos, those are the ones that are located at racetracks. Category 2 are what we call full-scale casinos that are not at racetracks. And Category 3 casinos are small properties located at resorts, but there's some restrictions on their size and any visitation from non-resort guests. The foremost relevant for our analysis here, however, are the Category 4 casinos you see toward the bottom. And they include the two most proximate casinos to College Township, which are Live Pittsburgh in Greensburg and Parks Shippensburg. As I mentioned, Category 4 casinos are also referred to as mini casinos because they have limitations on the permissible number of slots and table games. So I want to point out that together, Pennsylvania's casinos generated $3.39 billion in gaming revenues in 2024. Pennsylvania is one of the largest gaming markets in the country. And of that $3.39 billion, the Category 4 casinos generated just under $320 million of it. Okay. And we can go to the next slide. Okay. And yes, so we created a demand model that looked at the regional population and the tourist population, as I mentioned. And as you can see on this map that's on your screen, this was a stage in our analysis of understanding the geographic dispersal of the population. You can click one more time, Mike. Okay. We also looked at the historical performance of every casino in the state. This map here, it's a little hard to see on your screen, but it shows every casino in the state as well as every video gaming location in the state, because those facilities also compete for gaming activity and gaming dollars. Okay, you can click one more. Okay, so then our mobile phone tracking data. So that allowed us to understand the participation of gaming by the population and what the typical radius of draw has been for the Category 4 casinos in Pennsylvania. This map here shows the penetration or the participation in gaming of the populations of each of those zip codes in Pennsylvania. We used all this to build our models. Mike, you can click one more. Okay, so this final map here shows what we term the regional market area for this casino. This is the area which our drive time-based gravity model considered. And with that, my partner, Dr. Scott Fisher, is going to take you through the results of this modeling and our analyses. You can go to the next slide.
Thanks, Suzanne. I'm going to fast forward basically straight to the results. So the result of all that modeling from the regional market was a projection of casino win of $56 million from the region. And we also looked at the tourist population as well as visitors for football games and stuff like that, and came up with an additional $10 million from that market for the first full year of operation, to a total of $66 million, stabilizing at approximately $70 million per year. This stems from between 600,000 and 625,000 annual visits to the casino. Based on the performance of the other Category 4 casinos in the state, we projected that 88% of those revenues would come from the slot machines. And this split was pertinent since slots and table games are taxed at a different rate, particularly at the local level. The slots are taxed at twice the rate of the table games. These revenues are comparable to that which are attained annually on slots and table games at Hollywood Morgantown, one of the other Category 4 casinos. What's notable from all this is that there's no line item in our table here for sports betting, which according to the most recent presentation by Ira Lubert to the state a couple months ago, is not to be part of the project, or at least not initially. Sports betting revenues, or as a share of revenues, varies widely from property to property around Pennsylvania, particularly with respect to who the associated online sports betting gaming license entity is. So those who have companies like DraftKings or FanDuel that are involved in sports betting, they make a ton of money from sports betting. Those that just have their own casino name on it, not so much. Additionally, we projected non-gaming revenues from food, beverage, and entertainment would equate to between 6 and 8% of the gaming revenues, and that would add another $4 to $6 million annually to the revenue potential for the property. And so those figures are all up here in this table. Next slide, Mike. Turning to the economic impact projections, the first thing we looked at was the impact on employment and earnings of area residents. The developer had initially projected, back in 2021 report, that there would be 390 full-time equivalent employees, or FTE jobs, but he since revised that total to 350, and we assume that that's a reasonable figure to go with. Both we and ESI, the firm that the original casino developer had hired, then applied typical economic multipliers to determine the impacts of those jobs and related earnings as spin-off benefits to the regional community. Here's where our calculations differ from theirs, though. ESI applied multipliers to the total revenues of the property, but important here is that a substantial amount of the revenues go straight to the state for gaming taxes and have no local impact whatsoever and should not be part of the multiplier process, at least in my opinion. As a result, we estimate that there's comes out to 354 jobs, or just 4 indirect jobs, will be created in the township for a total of $16.7 million in new household incomes, and 402 jobs at the county level for approximately $20 million in earnings. It should be further noted that we all apply, call these direct jobs, or the jobs in the casino as being direct jobs at the township and at the county, but it's reasonable to assume that some of these jobs will accrue to people who live in a neighboring county or neighboring township, so the 350 is probably not entirely correct, but without having a staffing model or a guarantee that a hiring quota, we can't tell you what percentage of that 350 is going to be within the township or the county, but likely it's a significant percentage. Next slide. So we projected the annual gaming taxes to the township and the county of approximately $1.24 million and to $1.5 million per year for the first 10 years each, as compared to what ESI had, which was $1.6 million to $2.0 million for ESI. Again, there are two big differences here. The largest being the sports betting tax dollars, which they had a significant amount in, which if that never comes to pass, it will make it very difficult to get to ESI's numbers. In addition to gaming taxes, we looked at fiscal benefits to the township and the school district that can be expected in terms of property taxes and real estate taxes, as well as taxes on employment and earnings. So in total, we projected the annual impacts, fiscal impacts to the township to be approximately $1.66 million annually at stabilization and an additional $563,000 annually to the school district. Next slide. Getting into real estate, there may be those that are concerned about that the opening of the casino will have an impact on residential real estate prices. So we looked at the other Category 4 counties that are operational in the state, as well as the statewide total. And we noted that, first we note that the casino is to be located at a mall. It's not in the middle of a residential neighborhood. And this is essentially true for all the Category 4 casinos in Pennsylvania, as they've all replaced big box stores, as is the case obviously here. Looking at the real estate sales data for the counties where Category 4 casinos have opened, all since 2020, all these markets have experienced inflation in the average real estate sales prices. Relative to the state, since each casino opened, 2 have risen at a slightly faster rate than the state, and 2 have risen at a slightly slower rate. We recognize that the data set is small and the time period is brief, but we don't see any obvious trend here, particularly with respect to the casinos having any kind of negative impact on real estate prices. Next slide. From a commercial real estate standpoint, obviously the big issue here is what kind of impact might it have on the mall. We believe the casino has the potential to stimulate some vitality into the mall itself. We've not been provided with a copy of the lease or have been able to talk to the mall operator regarding potential other new tenants. But based on our discussions with other mall operators with casinos in Pennsylvania, the casinos have been at worst a neutral addition to the malls and at best beneficial as a new category for casinos have entered the market. So really here, the big issue is this is an opportunity for the mall to get back on its feet, but as we did the tour of the mall, it's going to take some marketing, and you need to understand the synergy of the mall with the casino. And obviously, hopefully, there's a good working relationship there, but that wasn't part of our task. So now I'm going to turn to the social impact section for the casino and what it needs in terms of public services needs and potential harms to the community. Next slide. We poured over the research nationally as well as pulled data from other casino communities in Pennsylvania. We interviewed city and township leaders and public safety officials, as Suzanne had pointed out, and we asked them directly, what have they experienced? What lessons can we learn or apply to College Township? And a lot of that dialogue can be found in the report appendix, as well as trying to really steering the way we approach this study. The main issues we addressed are as listed here in this table, but the first bullet point is really the one that drives the 4 that follow it. Additionally, we dug into the potential impacts for crime and public safety, and I'll pass it back to Suzanne to discuss our findings and recommendations for all these impacts. Thanks.
Okay, Scott, thank you. And Mike, you can go to the next slide. Thanks. Yeah, it's a little bit of game of tennis here. But so, first off, no surprise to anyone, but gambling can be addictive. And when it is, a wide array of problems can arise. And this is, largely one of the reasons that we understand that we were hired for this task was to understand what are some of those negative impacts that could be expected or that could, come down the road. So nationally, a whole bunch of studies have tried to estimate the prevalence of problem gaming. The rates vary depending on, methodology of the study or whatnot. From 1% to 2% of gamblers to around 8%. And that's kind of depends on what level of severity somebody is defined as having problem, being a problem gambler. According to the National Council on Problem Gambling, 2.5 million adults, or 1%, are estimated to meet the criteria for a severe gambling problem in any given year. And then another 5 to 8 million, about 2 to 3%, would be considered to have mild or moderate gambling problems. In other words, they don't meet the full diagnostic criteria for a gambling disorder, but they meet one or more of the criteria and are experiencing some sort of problems due to their gambling behavior. Now, the research also indicates that most adults who choose to gamble are able to do it responsibly. And about 85% of US adults have gambled at least once in their lives, with 60% having gambled within the past year. Other data that we've seen from Harvard shows, with regard to college students, that about 7% of college students meet the criteria for problem gambling. So obviously, given your location, that's something that everyone's going to need to be aware of and be proactive about. Interestingly, though, we see in the data that 81% of gambling addicts play online or through gambling-related apps. Now, Pennsylvania is somewhat unique in the U.S. in that nearly every form of gaming is already legal in your state. In College Township, you already have access to online casinos, sports bet, video gaming devices, and truck stops. And all of these forms of gaming have been found to be more addictive than casino games. There's also lottery and horse racing as well. But the data show that the demography of typical casino gamers is less inclined to be addicted than those that play online games and bet on sports. Now, that is not at all to say that casino gamers don't sometimes develop addiction, but just that the highest rates we're seeing in the data are from the non-casino forms of gaming, primarily the online forms. But we also see data that shows that those that play both online and inside casinos, they are more likely to become problem gamblers than those that limit themselves to one form or another. I'll say in terms of problem gaming funding or problem gambling funding, currently a small share of statewide gaming taxes goes to these programs. We found that, interviews, none of the other category for host counties or host communities have said that they allocate funding to problem gaming solutions. But to College Township, we recommend collaboration between your local healthcare networks and the agency that deals with gaming hotline calls, and for the township to monitor the needs that come up. There likely should be some assistance, potentially financial, from the state to do the monitoring and the tracking of these trends. And down the line, where necessary, after reviewing data, once the facility is operational, the township may look to fund and or provide public spaces to ensure that those who need help can get help, to provide those facilities for that. That said, we know that problem gambling issues can manifest in a variety of different ways. So we researched trends into some of those negative externalities to see what those possible impacts might be on College Township and also on Centre County. We looked at the introduction of the Category 4 casinos in Pennsylvania, as well as recent casino openings in Massachusetts. Massachusetts, because there's been a really fabulous statewide study that Massachusetts instituted. They started with UMass prior to legalization of casinos in Massachusetts, so that they monitor and track all of the impacts of casino gaming in the state. So it's a really great study that we draw from. So we look at this data, both in Massachusetts and then nationwide, to see the degree to which openings and casino operations impact rates of other socioeconomic problems, really. And Mike, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so as I said, we pored over data and we interviewed officials in the Category 4 host townships to see whether there are externalities in their communities. We're not here to sugarcoat anything, but the data doesn't suggest that there's going to be a cascade of problems for College Township. When it comes to issues like domestic violence, divorce, bankruptcy, suicide rates, Centre County is in a pretty admirable position. Your rates are consistently way below the statewide averages. Now, I point that out to say that for some of these metrics, even a really small increase is going to look like a spike for you guys because you have such low rates. But still, we want to look at these issues individually. So going back to for domestic violence, the Center County rate is approximately half the statewide average, at less than 2 per 1,000 residents. The data is mixed for the other category 4 host counties, with 2 of them having rates that have risen faster than their neighboring counties, and 1 having rates that have risen slower than neighboring counties, and 1 where the data is just insufficient. We don't have enough to really look at. But in none of the cases could you call the changes a spike. And the data show that there's plenty of year-to-year volatility in every county's rate. So for Center County, it's likely that there may be a small increase, but it should stay well below the statewide average, which was 3.2 per 1,000 residents in 2023. And the surrounding counties, also for reference, was 2.82 per 1,000 residents in 2023. Back to that study in Massachusetts, they ran a similar study for the 3 casinos in that state, and they concluded that there was no evidence of a correlation between the presence of a casino and rates of domestic issues or divorce. We can go to the next slide. So speaking of divorce, in addition to that Massachusetts study finding of no correlation, we found that in Pennsylvania, the rates of divorce between 2018 and 2023 were generally falling everywhere, independent of whether there's a casino or not. The rate in Berks County has been relatively flat since opening the casino, while rates in the other casino counties have certainly declined. There was no case where we saw growth in divorce rates after the casino opened. Again, for Center County, the current rate of divorce per capita is nearly identical to that of domestic violence at just under 2 per 1,000 residents. And there's no evidence that we've seen to suggest that that's going to change. We can go to the next slide. Bankruptcy. We took a look at bankruptcy filings in the category 4 casino counties. Bankruptcy rates statewide are, in general, much lower than they were 10 years ago, but have been slowly increasing over the past several years. The same can be said for several of the category 4 host counties, other than sustained declines that are in Westmoreland County. In Massachusetts, the rates for the host counties are well below pre-opening levels. We don't at all suggest that a casino opening in a community is going to bankruptcy rates. This obviously suggests that there's a lot more macroeconomic issues at play than simply a casino opening in your community. And we can go to the next slide. Suicide and mental health. So a 2024 study was done in a Journal of Public Health that analyzed data for suicides in the U.S. National Violent Death Reporting System from 2003 through 2020, finding that 0.44% of all suicide cases across the country were gambling related. Now, this is a little tricky because classification of gambling addiction as a specific motivating factor for suicide is really rare. So, keeping that in mind, we looked at other factors such as financial problems and the catch-all of other addiction on a coroner's report as possible gambling-related cases. And what we found in this data was that in Pennsylvania host counties, the rates of total suicides and other addiction suicides were lower than the statewide average, as well as that of their neighboring counties. And they were only slightly higher in terms of financial problem suicides. We're going to, further, I just kind of want to go back to how things are in Center County. The data shows that suicide is nearly non-existent in Center County. So even if a gambling problem results in just one unfortunate case, the per capita volume in Center County is going to go, relative to most anywhere else in the state. Now, finally, we looked at a variety of crime rates in Pennsylvania and other states with casinos. And we interviewed public safety officials in other Category 4 host communities to see what impacts the casinos had on them. And here again, here's one of the cases where our demand models were particularly relevant, as the volume of visitation is likely to be directly correlated with the number of times that someone is going to need help or be arrested. We have done these types of studies in a multitude of markets, and officials in these casino host communities almost always tell us the same thing, that the casino is just like another big box store, that they often get more calls to the Walmart than they do to the casino. And the data that we reviewed bears that out. For the other Category 4 host communities, we see that call volumes were nearly identical to when those facilities were a big box store. Now, however, the calls were for different issues. In our interviews with the public officials, we're told that the majority of the problems they've seen have to do with folks leaving the casino, oftentimes because they're trying to drive after drinking. And so, that's possibly one of the biggest public safety concerns for College Township is going to be when people leave the casino. The casino is going to have a sports bar. It's close to major highways. And so there's going to need to be some sobriety monitoring. We're not saying it will be a problem, but it certainly could become one without being monitored. Also, the mall is going to need to ensure good parking lot lighting 24/7 for security purposes. And there are costs associated with that. And those costs are typically the responsibility of the mall owner. But again, we haven't been able to talk with them, and we don't know what that contract is between them and the casino operator. From the casino operator's standpoint, they want to keep their facility and their parking lot as safe as possible. A parking lot that's viewed as unsafe keeps patrons away, and so that's not good for anybody. So that'll be something that they should be working together with very closely. Now, in terms of what we expect for the demands on your public service, public safety, we're projecting approximately 1 call a week for police, and the fire department we expect would need to respond to approximately 2 calls per month. EMS, a little bit less than 1 per month is what the forecasts are showing us. Now, again, these projections are consistent with the feedback that we received from the public safety officials in these other communities. And in none of these communities have they said that the casino has been a strain on their public safety providers. That just hasn't borne out for them. We can go to the next slide. So all of the data we've tracked and interviews with public officials is showing us that there is no need for alarm in College Township and in Center County. Macroeconomic and other public health issues are more likely to drive the negative impacts we've discussed than the opening of the casino. That's based on all of the trend data. Now, however, I'll steal an analogy that Scott likes to use, this is from an economist, that an individual doesn't feel the difference between a 4% unemployment rate and a 6% unemployment rate. But if they lose their job, the unemployment rate to them is 100%. So in reality, we know that if someone develops a gambling disorder, any or all of the outcomes that I just went through are possible, even if it doesn't show up as a spike in the data. And for that individual and their families that are impacted, it's not a small issue. That said, mitigation of negative impacts means ensuring that there are adequate and easily accessible public health care options, and that you're diligent in collecting data to see how successful this is. So where the needs are and where money can best be spent to meet those needs, in case you need to pivot and redirect things. I will say that the best part of this is that, this type of treatment program can catch all gambling addictions, not just those that are brought on by the casino. These programs can also be used for those higher incidences of gambling problems, such as the online forms as well. So with that, I realize that we just threw a whole bunch of information at you, but we're here to answer any questions that you guys have.
Okay. Thank you, Suzanne. Dr. Fisher. I think what we'll do is we're looking at a potential action item, basically just to receive the report tonight. But I'd like to give the council members an opportunity. We're going to go around the table here to ask any follow-up questions. I'll start with Dustin and then Tracy, and then we'll come back over to Rich and Susan.
Yeah, thanks for the report. That was pretty thorough. I really don't have any questions to the report.
Same.
Same?
Questions.
Rich.
We just got a lot of information and data and everything, and I'm going to be very honest, my head's been in numbers for a couple weeks, but that actually helped preface some of this stuff. It was interesting to hear how it correlates in the various aspects of everything. I was wondering if there was any other, they indicated they reviewed versus the previous study. The only one real difference I heard was in the jobs numbers and how they applied those. Was there any other ones that brought to your attention versus the previous one?
Well, as I pointed out, I guess the one thing was the fiscal impacts. I believe over a 10-year period, it aggregated to about a $2 million difference between our projections and ESI's projections. And roughly half of that was due to the elimination of sports betting, and half of it was they had a higher gaming revenue projection. And one thing I want to point out, I have all the respect in the world for your council, is that they did their projections back in 2020 before any of the Category 4 casinos were open and before online gaming was really introduced into the state or became as big, certainly as big as it is now. It's been mushrooming every year. And so, having some historical data on all that, we came up with a lower revenue potential. So, that was really the big thing. As far as the public service impacts, we had almost identical conclusions for that one. So there really wasn't much else that we looked at that was all that different. Again, the physical impacts, the job impacts was less than they had. But there wasn't really anything else that they looked at that we kind of overlap with. Those are really the big issues. They didn't really look at, measure each of the different other socioeconomic impacts.
Right, I think that was the biggest thing. The previous one, the category 4s were just starting out. And so I don't think there was as much data points, and that's why I was very curious to hear if there'd been a change in those data points with more data available and everything. And the online's changed a lot of things.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised they didn't come back with a revised study, or at least present us. I mean, they may have, I'm sure they have an internal one, but it would have been nice to have seen them come and say, these are our new projections. But obviously, we have the skills to do it on our own and not have to rely on somebody else's numbers.
Okay. Thank you.
Susan?
Yeah, this is a lot of information, and thank you. And I have had a chance to look at the report in more detail than other members as part of the committee. And I appreciate, you're including the Category 4 casinos and the length of time that they've been in operation so that we can really understand, the short-term time of impact and help us. I have a particular interest in the potential social harms that the casino will bring, even if they are statistically a small sample. As you pointed out at the end, Suzanne, even one person harmed is 100% for that person and that family. And so I think for me, it's been particularly helpful to understand the data that we have on hand, which is clearly the data, but also recognize that we have a short period of time that we do have comparison data, particularly with Category 4 casinos. And I know that we need to really understand the difference between cause and effect and correlation. And, we need to think about the economic impact at a high level for the township and also for the county. The social harm is very concerning to me, but I recognize that it doesn't necessarily rise to a percentage of the population that might be of concern to other people, but for me it is concerning. And I appreciate the attention you paid to opportunities for the township to consider partnerships with local healthcare providers, possibly Penn State, and it gives us fodder for our discussions going forward to really carefully think about this. And I guess the last point, I guess I'm making more points than I'm asking questions, but it's been my understanding, and I'd appreciate your insight, your experience, but it's my understanding that most municipalities don't ask for the kind of social impact data that we've asked for, and that it's hard to find that social impact data. I know that Sigma has a deep, a deep database, and it's years and years, decades in the making, because Massachusetts required that by law. So, I would appreciate your opinion on how we comport compared to other municipalities asking for this information in particular.
You're being very proactive. You are being proactive, and we certainly applaud that. Like you mentioned the Sigma study in Massachusetts. I mean, as casino gaming has been around for a few decades now in the U.S., and the Sigma study was the first time to actually measure the impacts of casino gaming on communities. And, so, and that was a decade ago. Look, so it's, I will say that the more data that you collect and the more you track it, the better. Because, these are obviously things that that can concern communities and can affect communities. And I applaud you guys for being proactive on that. When we've been asked by, in decades past or years past, when we were asked by communities to assess the impacts of a casino, oftentimes the focus was economic impact to jump. Occasionally, what would be the impact on fire and police. But I will say that you guys are digging a bit more deeply than many other communities. Scott, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I really think that there's an opportunity here because the Gaming Control Board and the Council on Problem Gambling in Pennsylvania, everyone's aware of what University of Massachusetts is doing, and they'd love to be able to come up to have studies and really be able to address it and solve problems. And I think that here's an opportunity, whether it's Penn State, Nittany Health, to the whole collaboration with the state, whatever agency it is, or both agencies. There is monies that come from gaming taxes that goes towards problem gambling, and at the statewide level. And if they know that you're keen on researching this, at least from the monitoring standpoint, maybe not so much on the helping funding the treatment, but at least in the monitoring, tracking, and all of that, I would have to assume that they would be completely on board because they don't want to be inferior to Massachusetts. They want to have as much data, and they do collect some data, but they could always use more. And I'm sure they'd be all very much interested in helping you out, possibly with some of the funding. I can't imagine that monitoring and things like that are that cost prohibitive that they would get on board with that.
Right. Thank you. I mean, clearly there are opportunities to do things in a different way here. We have resources that other Category 4 casinos don't have in terms of Penn State, and I think the culture in the community has been, parts of our community have been very vocal about their concern and their opposition to the casino. So this gives us a chance to be responsive to those concerns in a proactive way. I did have one specific question, maybe more, but I saw you look at your But one of the questions I had, you mentioned that the state, some of the state taxes are set aside to fund treatment programs for people with gambling disorders. Do you happen to know offhand what percentage? I think each of the types of gambling and the revenue from the different types of gambling are set aside differently and apportioned differently by the state, but offhand, do you know? And if not, you can get back to me. I don't want to keep the room here.
Yeah, Scott, do you know offhand? Because I'm trying to look and see in our...
I had a number in my head, and I'm not sure it's correct, so I don't want to say it live.
Let's move on.
It's and again, like you said, it's geared towards the problem gambling, but I don't know how it's distributed once it gets there.
Okay.
And that's probably even the bigger issue. So.
All right. For the sake of time, let's move on.
I'm not sure it's a fraction of a percent. For some, I'm like, on one hand, the number 0.25% comes to my mind. The other number is like 2. I'm pretty sure positive it's not 2.
Okay. No, that's fine. Thank you.
It's not a significant amount, but it's you're saying you go towards problem gambling. The question is, it goes towards problem gambling, and then what? And that's probably the bigger problem. Is how that money is distributed once it gets allocated towards this nebulous idea of problem gambling.
Back to Tracy.
Yeah, I had a quick question concerning, from what I heard or what I felt I heard was that amongst the college students, it is higher for them to become more addictive. I'm not sure if you can answer this or if there's any resources out there. How did they handle that with the University of Massachusetts of getting support and help? Just Susan's question kind of made me think about that. With that being the higher number and we having such a large population of students here that live here, were there any programs or resources that you noticed within their culture that they had that we could possibly adapt, or conversations that they had concerning that?
Well, so I'll answer part of the question and maybe kick part of it to Scott as well. With regard to the higher rate that's been seen for college students, the data seems to indicate that really what that's related to is the online gaming forms, rather than casino, land-based casinos of walking in, playing a slot machine, or playing at a table game. And with regard to services for students, Scott, did you come across anything on that?
I think, UMass is much more involved in data collection than recommendations.
Gotcha.
That's one thing. But yeah, and to Suzanne's point, it's online gaming, but especially boys playing video, doing sports betting because they think that they're smart and young boys are not. So, guys too. But yeah, I mean, that's really it is. When you look at the typical demography of a casino patron, they look a lot more like me but female. So we don't expect that the Penn State students are going to be frequent casino patrons. There may be some, but if you look at casinos around the U.S., there's a very small percentage for people that are under 25. The sports bar there might help bring some people in, but you got plenty of sports bars downtown, which are walking distance. So, from that perspective, we don't see the student population being really drawn. Proportionally, there'd be a much smaller percentage of the gamers in the casino.
Well, and I will point out you have to be 21 to get into the casino as well. So right there, that cuts out a portion of the university population as well. But we do have in the report. We did look at the university population separately as a separate market segment, and so we do have in there projections of just how many gaming visits that could be expected from them. It's a small number proportionally, certainly, but in terms of actual programs for that, we haven't seen college-driven programs to address problem gaming.
Okay. Thank you.
Not meaning they're not out there, but we haven't come across them.
Any follow-ups? All right. First off, I have a couple questions, but first, I want to thank my fellow council members and staff for following through on this. I knew we were being proactive. It was encouraging to hear that confirmation tonight, but we were being proactive for a reason, for several reasons. We did want an independent evaluation, and also, as Rich noted, 4 or 5 years have gone by since the first data set that we had to contemplate. And lastly, as Susan mentioned, most of the pushback from the community has centered around the social issues, which weren't at all touched in the previous impact report. So, I commend you for the format of your presentation tonight, because I read through most of this, the written report, but I got more out of this presentation tonight in the way you put the information together and presented it. Now, that doesn't always happen, so kudos on the presentation. As far as the questions go, Rich asked about the variances. We covered that. Economics and the projected economics was probably the big one between the two reports. And we touched on you asking the other officials when you responded that we were being proactive. I would assume none of the other officials in the Category 4 communities in Pennsylvania did anything like this. Is that a reasonable assumption as far as working with someone to assess the impacts at the levels that you did for us?
Yeah, I'm going to answer this. As far as the Category 4s, I would say yes. Where things sometimes can be different, and you did not have this opportunity, is when there's communities that have an opportunity to negotiate some aspect of a casino entry. And then we've worked for some other communities where that's the case, where you're able to negotiate, do a host community agreement, and you need to know things. When you have that opportunity, when communities have that opportunity, that's common. And since you didn't, in Pennsylvania, it's not common.
Okay. All right. The last question is, the slide that looked at real estate values. I had a quick question on that one. Can we go back to that one? I'm not sure which one it was. It was early on.
I think it's around 14.
Yes, slides 12
What is it?
Yeah, 12 and 13. 12 was
Yes,
residential,
12.
13.
Yeah, the question is, see, the second to last and third to last lines, the 4-year average of annual growth, was that the last 4 years, or was that the 4 years prior to the casino opening? In other words, does the 4-year average include a couple of the years after the casino opened in that area? There you go.
That should be 2020, June 2020 to June 2024, that year. So for Center County, 286 going to 362 is an average of 6.1%.
Okay, so the AAG since year casino opened is a subset of the line above it. It's a smaller number of years. Unless
right, I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off, but yeah, each of those casinos opened during a different window of those 4 years.
Okay, so the 4-year average includes the years the casino was open?
Yes.
Okay, so the years like Westmoreland, if the casino was open most of those 4 years, the average 4-year annual growth would be very close to the average since the casino opened. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, I believe, Suzanne, am I correct that Westmoreland was when they opened in 2020?
Yeah, that's the one we visited about 4 or 5 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
So there isn't a figure that shows the 4 years prior to a casino opening and then a number.
That's correct.
Okay. The 4-year average annual growth is the last 4 years. Okay.
Yes.
All right. That was my only question. Any other follow-ups? Again, we're looking for action tonight, simply to accept the report. And if we get action, we get a motion on the table, then that will provide public, so anyone in the public an opportunity to comment, approach council with any comments. And I know we have at least one person in the audience tonight. So with that, the chair will entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, understand we're simply moving to accept the report. We're not implementing anything. We're not taking any action beyond accepting the report. This is data, another data set, much more complete data set of our disposal tools in our tool belt. Okay, we have a motion. Before I call the question and vote, this would be required to offer the public comment on the motion. I don't see anybody online, but I know we have at least Mr. Schaefer here who would like to address council. Anyone else besides him? All right, is he included in your extended time limit that I gave you?
No, they're separate.
All right, we'll keep that in mind. We'll do this collectively. Just for the record, I've given Mr. Schaefer a little bit of leeway in the time constraints normally for comment, because it's my understanding he's representing a collection, comments from a collection of people. And he said, he promised me he would read fast.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Andrew Schaefer. I live in State College Borough. I'd like to begin by thanking Convergent Strategy Group for preparing a thorough impact report. The CSG impact report contains a lot of good information that makes reading the full report worthwhile, including a number of good recommendations for steps that College Township can take to help reduce the harm to the community which will be caused by the casino. I encourage the members of council to read the report in its entirety and to pay particular attention to the social impact section and the associated recommendations near the end. According to Mr. Bloom's executive summary, the casino will create a massive financial windfall for the township, have no negative impacts on township real estate values, have negligible negative social impacts, and have virtually no discernible impact on first responders. I'm not convinced, and I don't believe you should be either. I will address each of these areas that Mr. Bloom summarized in turn. First, economic impacts. According to the economic impact analysis starting on page 77 of the report, the casino will stimulate direct spending, household earnings, and job creation in the region as well as a variety of fiscal impacts. The economic impact of the casino operations will stem from patron expenditures on gaming and non-gaming activities. In addition to the spending, earnings and jobs directly attributable to gaming patrons, indirect spending, earnings, and employment will result from a ripple effect of casino expenditures in the regional market on goods and services. Additionally, there will be impacts induced by the incremental household spending of power of casino employees. These mechanisms for generating economic benefits are real, and CSG has done a very thorough job of documenting the casino's benefits. However, that's only one side of the story. Notably, the impact report's economic analysis does not discuss the primary negative impact of the casino's operation on the local community, namely the amount of money that will leave College Township and the surrounding region as a result of the casino's operation. The gambling taxes that are paid to the state and federal government will leave the region entirely, and the payment of these taxes is not likely to cause any incremental increase in state or federal government spending in our community to offset the loss. Saratoga Casino Holdings will also likely take most of its profits out of the region, as it is headquartered and historically based in New York. The funds that are taken out of the local community cannot be recirculated throughout the local economy as they might otherwise have been, and this effect will reduce overall economic activity in the region. Because the amount of profits and total gambling taxes that will be taken out of the local economy are such a large portion of the total casino revenue, the loss of these funds from the local economy will significantly offset or possibly even exceed the reported induced secondary economic benefits of the casino's operation to the township by themselves. There will also be secondary effects. Page 77 of the impact reports notes that neither the earlier ESI report nor the current CSG report adjust for substitution effects, such as the diversion of spending from local entertainment, restaurants, and/or video gaming facilities. I appreciate that CSG actually mentions these possible areas of substitution, but this statement is only included to note that they did not incorporate substitution effects into their economic modeling. Unfortunately, substitution effects caused by casinos are not limited to only the redirection of spending within the entertainment sector, and they are substantial. In live casinos, the losses from 5% of the players generate 74% of casino revenue. The Sigma report that is cited in the social impact section of the CSG report is one of the most recent reports of which I am aware that addresses the percentage of gambling revenue derived from gambling addicts. This report indicates that as of 2021 to 2022, 88% of gambling revenue in Massachusetts was derived from gamblers who are already addicted to gambling or who show enough signs of gambling addiction to be clinically considered at risk. The finding that a majority of casino revenue derives from a small fraction of casino gamblers has been corroborated by numerous studies conducted over many years, and this phenomenon is the reason why casinos cater to high-spending gamblers through VIP programs that further exacerbate the spending differences between these gamblers and recreational gamblers who spend much less. I am not aware of any good reason to believe the situation here in Center County is or will be any different. The Happy Valley Casino is planning to implement a VIP program of its own when it opens. People who are addicted to gambling will substitute spending on gambling for the full range of other economic activities. They will redirect money from their food budget, from rent money, from money that is earmarked for tuition, from loans that are taken from family members and friends that will never be repaid, and so on. And as we saw reported in the Center County News about former Gregg Township Secretary Pamela Hackenberg's sentencing earlier this week, money that is spent on gambling is sometimes obtained through financial crimes like theft or embezzlement, even from a township government. The life of a gambling addict is focused on gambling, and when no more money for gambling remains, the focus shifts to obtaining more money quickly so the addict can resume quick gambling as soon as possible. With such a large percentage of casino revenue coming from the small fraction of gamblers who have problems controlling their gambling, it is essential to incorporate the secondary effects of these people redirecting their spending from a broad range of economically productive uses into casino gambling if we want to develop an accurate prediction of the net economic impact of the casino. Redirecting this economically beneficial spending into casino gambling induces an analogous ripple effect of negative secondary impacts, and this effect is typically larger than the positive one generated by the casino. These negative economic effects do not appear to be modeled in the economic analysis provided in the CSG report. Additionally, the report does not appear to address the impact of the gambling tax change introduced earlier this summer in the One Big Beautiful Bill. This tax change gets the federal government into the game of harvesting tax revenue from the gambling industry by reducing the tax deduction for gambling losses to only 90% of the amount lost, while keeping 100% of gambling winnings taxable. To illustrate the effect of this change, consider a gambler who breaks even by gambling $100,000 next year and also winning back exactly that same amount. This gambler will owe taxes on $10,000 of phantom income, even though they only broke even on their gambling. Even gamblers who lose money on their gambling will still often owe taxes on phantom income if their total winnings exceed 90% of their total losses once this tax change goes into effect next year, further increasing the amount of monies removed from the region. Most gamblers who are not professionals cannot even accurately identify how much they have won or lost through gambling on a net basis, let alone identify the gross amounts of their wins and losses. It is common for heavy gamblers to wager more than $1 million per year if they recycle their winnings into further gambling. The additional federal taxes that each heavy gambler will owe because of this tax change may amount to tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars per individual per year. And this money will be extracted from gamblers' home communities and redirected to the federal government so it can no longer be circulated in the local economy. Since heavy gamblers generate the substantial majority of casino revenues, this tax change is expected to generate more than $1 billion for the federal government, and its impact on the gambling industry will be significant. The effects of this tax change do not appear to be modeled anywhere in the economic analysis provided in the report. Furthermore, the findings of the impact report are based upon the Happy Valley Casino hosting 750 slot machines, whereas the casino is currently only authorized to host 600 slots. It is not clear whether an additional 150 slot machines will be approved by the PGCB, particularly if 750 slots would provide more capacity than the casino's market can fully utilize, as the CSG impact report indicates. Since the number of slot machines is one of the foundational inputs for CSG's economic analysis, any reduction in this value may have an outsized impact on the tax revenues and economic impacts generated by the casino. Overall, the CSG impact report shows that the casino will generate significantly less revenue in gambling taxes than was previously predicted by the ESI report, and CSG's refined analysis is still based only on tallying the positive economic impacts of the casino in terms of increased economic activity, while discounting or completely ignoring negative economic impacts that may partially offset or even exceed the casino's benefits. Because of this, I believe that College Township should expect to receive less in tax benefits and induced economic benefits than what even the CSG impact report predicts, and the township should also prepare for the possibility that the overall long-term economic effects of hosting the casino will actually be negative. Social impacts. The CSG report indicates that there is not sufficient evidence to assert that the introduction of the casino will cause a wide range of negative social impacts. However, not having sufficient evidence to assert that these effects will occur is not the same thing as evidencing that these effects will not occur. It is worth noting that the disclaimer at the end of CSG's report provides CSG with broad legal immunity should any of its hopeful predictions not come to pass. Much of the report's commentary on social impacts is based on the idea that any negative social impacts caused by the introduction of the casino will be muted, because other forms of gambling are already available. I understand the basic idea here to be that because online gambling is already available in State College, the significant harms that result from initially introducing gambling to the area have already been done, and so we need not worry about a casino making things significantly worse. This is a logical fallacy. Page 59 of the impact report states that gaming participation rates for various geographies in the model can therefore be expected to increase significantly, particularly within a 1-hour drive time radius, when the additional gaming venue option is made available. For those individuals who begin gambling for the first time because of the introduction of the casino will effectively constitute an introduction of gambling to their lives, and we should expect the people in this group to experience the same outsized negative social impacts that are typically associated with the initial introduction of casino gambling to an area it was not previously available. Conversely, every gambler at the casino who is not introduced to gambling by their first visit to the casino must, by definition, already make use of at least one other form of gambling. For those who use only one other form of gambling, new participation in casino gambling will shift these individuals from being single-mode gamblers to multimodal gamblers, which is the category of gamblers at greatest risk of experiencing gambling harms. Such a shift constitutes an increase in the risk of harm that these individuals will experience. The only group of casino gamblers who would not experience an incremental increase in their risk due to the opening of the casino would be those who already gamble using several different gambling modalities prior to the casino's opening. As multimodal gamblers, these individuals are already at the highest risk level for experiencing gambling-related harms. Fortunately, this third group comprises only a small fraction of the population. But this fact implies that there must be significant numbers of people in the first two groups who will experience significant increases in risk due to the introduction of the casino. The introduction of the casino, therefore, is likely to significantly increase the overall risks of gambling harms experienced by the people in our community. These risks should be taken seriously. Beyond the incremental increase in the risk of harm to people who gamble in the casino, the report indicates that the introduction of the casino will also increase the number of people, and particularly college students, who gamble overall. As the 2003 study of college student problem gambling referenced on page 98 of the report indicates, the availability of gambling, measured by the number of types of gambling venues located in the school's states, influence their decisions to gamble. The CSG report states on page 129 that Penn State's 48,900 students should not be especially impacted by the casino because they have access to other gambling options in the state. Nevertheless, CSG still predicts 26,287 casino visits from students each year, accruing a total casino revenue of $2.6 million. This comprises an average of approximately 72 casino visits by students every day, with each visit yielding an average of almost $100 spent on gambling. Of course, since most Penn State students are in attendance at the university for only about 30 weeks of each year during the fall and spring semesters, and since many students will not patronize the casino at all, the actual intensity of casino gambling among those students who do gamble in the casino will be markedly higher. The phenomenon of 5% of casino gamblers generating 74% of casino revenue would also suggest that a few dozens or hundreds of students who become addicted to gambling will generate the vast majority of student casino visits each year. The impact report's finding that the opening of the casino is expected to increase the rate of domestic abuse in our community is particularly troubling. As the report notes, domestic abuse can reasonably be considered as a proxy for financial distress within households. Since financial distress is a contributing factor to virtually all of the other negative social impacts that were considered by the study, it is reasonable to conclude that all of the negative social impacts considered by the report could worsen in our community as a result of the introduction of the casino, even if the specific studies cited in the report did not identify obvious increases in these harms in population-level data from other contexts. Property values. I would point out that the Nittany Mall's management did not even respond to CSG's request for an interview to discuss the impact study, despite the casino being touted as being the last best chance to save their dying shopping mall. I believe the business strategy of the mall's owners is well known to the council by this point, as is their reticence to perform even basic maintenance on the mall property, such as filling in the dangerous sinkhole that formed last year. Many of CSG's recommendations for ways the township can protect the community from casino-related harms involve steps to ensure the physical safety and security of the casino parking lot and the area immediately surrounding the casino. Since the mall directly abuts the casino's location, the township will likely need to work with the mall's owners if there is to be any hope of those recommendations being put into practice. Impact to first responders. Regarding the impact of first responders, CSG is reporting call volumes for police, fire, and EMS services that are in line with what ESI initially reported. I would once again ask you to keep in mind PGCB Chairwoman Denise Smiler's remarks at the January 25th, 2023 meeting where the license for the casino was approved. And I'll try to do my best impression here. The calls for police, fire, and EMS per month is pretty low. These numbers are really low. 6 calls a month? 2 calls a month? Assuming that the Happy Valley Casino will be the safest casino in the state without any township involvement would be a risky strategy. I encourage the council to pursue the recommendations in the impact report regarding steps that can be taken to improve the physical safety of the casino site and also to reserve some funding in case additional police, fire, and EMS support ends up being needed. In general, I would emphasize the advice provided by Hempfield Township Supervisor Douglas Weimar on page 140 of the report, in which he suggests to budget low and not include casino money in the first year at all. Be cautious. My personal belief is that the casino will not provide the sustainable tax revenue that the council hopes it will. There are numerous reasons to lead me to this conclusion. First, the future of gambling in Pennsylvania is online. Online gambling is more convenient for gamblers, it offers better rewards, and it costs less to establish and operate. Pennsylvania's online casinos are already taking market share away from the state's land-based casinos. Second, Pennsylvania's tens of thousands of skill games pose an existential threat to the state's land-based casinos. Many gas stations, bars, and social clubs in State College already host skill games. There is already a casino, smoke shop, and skills game parlor located across the street from the Happy Valley Casino. Skill games can outcompete land-based casinos because they are untaxed and unregulated, and they have been taking increasing amounts of market share. Some Pennsylvania casino operators, like the Presque Isle Downs Casino in Erie, are already contemplating shutting down due to this increased competition. Third, Pennsylvania's lottery is aggressively expanding to compete more effectively with land-based casinos. The lottery's leaders say this intensification of competition is necessary because Pennsylvania's gambling market is already saturated. Fourth, the tax changes included in the Big Beautiful Bill will put further pressure on the gambling industry as a whole. We have already discussed the effects of this tax change earlier. Fifth, the owner of the Nittany Mall has not invested in developing or maintaining the mall, and it appears they have no plans to do so. The owners of the mall have failed to correct even major public safety hazards at the mall, necessitating intervention by College Township's government. The entire mall recently lost power following a storm and had to be closed for an extended period of time. The mall is already in a very poor state, and it may prove difficult even to get the owners of the mall to maintain the mall at a level that will not deter customers from coming to the casino. Sixth, the proximity of almost 49,000 young college students at Penn State's main campus, just 3 miles from the location of the Happy Valley Casino, is likely to attract regulatory scrutiny and create reputational risk. Most of Penn State's students are of humble origins, and nearly all of them are at increased risk of gambling addiction because of their young age. It will become an embarrassment for both the university and the PGCB if the Happy Valley Casino generates a surge in college students derailing their education because of gambling addiction. Seventh, the Happy Valley Casino is unlikely to attract significant business from tourists. As stated in the CSG Impact Report, only about 10% of the casino's revenue is expected to derive from tourists. Eighth, the local community and State College very strongly opposes the Happy Valley Casino. The feedback submitted to the PGCB about the casino opposed its development by a ratio of 42-1. Even presenting this data favorably for the casino, the PGCB still reported 86.93% opposition to the project. The PGCB also documented 7,335 petition signatures opposing the development of the casino. Additionally, a poll of approximately 1,800 statecollege.com readers showed nearly 80% of respondents opposed the development of the casino. In contrast, the one petition supporting the casino attracted only 60 signatures, and this petition was not even submitted to the PGCB. Individual news articles discussing the development of the Happy Valley Casino now often attract more comments opposing the casino than the total amount of community support that was documented for the casino throughout the entire 11 months that the PGCB collected public feedback about the project. People who strongly oppose the development of this casino are not likely to gamble in it, and many have said they will discourage their friends and families from gambling in it as well. In addition to all these reasons, in my opinion, the strongest tell that the casino may not do well is the fact that Ira Lubert is seeking to sell majority interest in the project to Saratoga Casino Holdings before the casino even opens. Of course, College Township has little direct control over whether the casino will succeed or fail, and what control you do have is largely limited to your role in helping to minimize any harms the casino might cause so it will not become unpopular among its potential customers. The CSG report includes a few suggestions for easy steps that the township can take to limit crime at the casino location and to obtain grant funding to support the development of at least rudimentary gambling addiction treatment resources in the center region. These suggestions are listed in the Social Impacts Conclusions and Recommendations section, which start on page 122 of the report. These suggestions do not appear in Mr. Bloom's executive summary of the report, and they are barely mentioned even in CSG's executive summary, so you will need to read the actual content of the report to see them. I encourage the Council to review these recommendations and apply them. I am also happy to provide further suggestions that have been generated by the community if this is desired. In closing, I am certain that all of you will be interested in the interviews with officials from casino host townships that are documented in Appendix 2, starting on page 137 of the report. All 4 of the officials who were interviewed had nothing but glowing reviews for their casinos, and all 4 of them were thrilled about the gambling tax revenue that they received. All 4 of the officials who were interviewed also knew nothing about the effects of gambling addiction within their communities. Several of them even explicitly stated that those issues were someone else's responsibility. It is easy to be happy about a casino when you receive its benefits and other people have to pay the costs. But paying attention to those costs and taking responsibility to minimize them is an integral part of what the township signed up for when it opted into potentially hosting a casino. You have the opportunity to be better than those other host community officials who take the benefits of hosting a casino while leaving others to deal with the fallout. The people who suffer gambling-related harms are among the most stigmatized and marginalized in our nation. Many of these people have appealed to you time and time again in this very council chamber. Please don't let them down. If College Township's government truly considers itself to be representative, just, and inclusive, then show us what you really are by using some of the tax revenue that you will receive from the casino to protect these most marginalized of your citizens. We are asking you to do what you can to hold others back from the abyss that we know exists. Please read the CSG report in its entirety and apply its recommendations to protect the people who will otherwise suffer from the harms that will be caused by the casino. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. I did see Dan's hand up there. Now, I'm going to ask you to stick to anything that Mr. Schaefer hasn't already covered.
Okay.
I gave him quite a bit of latitude there.
Absolutely.
So I'm counting on you to.
Okay, I promise. 6 minutes. No, 5. Good evening, members of council. My name is Dan Materna, and I live in Walker Township. Bottom line up front, as I said from this podium 2 weeks ago, in my opinion, the casino will not be successful. It will struggle financially, and it will close by 2028. That said, I commend Convergence Strategy Group for presenting such a thorough and outstanding analysis of the local impact of the casino. As I closely read the report, I was increasingly impressed by the focused professional expertise that is genuinely evident throughout the entire document. Then I reached page 127, and I saw the disclaimer that is included there. I immediately realized that disclaimer should have been included at the very beginning of the 141-page report. Why? Because the reader would then fully understand everything about the projections, estimates, and/or forward-looking statements included in the incredibly detailed narrative of the entire report. After I read the disclaimer in a moment, I'm confident you will agree it should absolutely be read and understood before beginning any deep dive into the detailed expert analysis the report includes. Quote, disclaimer, certain information included in this report contains projections, estimates, and/or forward-looking statements which Convergence Strategy Group has based on our current expectations about future events. These items include statements that reflect our existing beliefs and knowledge regarding the operating environment, existing trends, existing plans, public announcements, objectives, goals, expectations, anticipations, results of operations, future performance, and business plans. Further, statements that include the words project, estimate, intend, plan, may, could, should, would, believe, expect, anticipate, or other words of expression of similar meaning have been utilized. These statements reflect our current judgment based on information available to us when producing this report, and we undertake no duty to update such statements in the future. Although we believe assumptions and methodologies used in this report are reasonable, any or all of the estimates or projections in this report may prove to be incorrect. To the extent possible, we have attempted to verify and confirm estimates and assumptions used in this analysis. However, some assumptions inevitably will not materialize as a result of inaccurate assumptions and/or unanticipated events and circumstances that may occur. Consequently, actual results achieved during the period covered by our analysis will vary from our estimates, and the variations may be material. As such, Convergence Strategy Group accepts no liability in relation to the estimates provided there or herein. Unquote. Okay, I might have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. I had planned to point out 2 or 3 data points in the report that I believe are either incorrect or glossed over and then smoothly dismissed. I quickly realized that choosing to do so would be counterproductive. For example, I plan to comment that the report does not mention the DSM-5, published by the American Psychiatric Association to help mental health providers diagnose mental disorders, including gambling disorder. The DSM-5 describes 9 specific gambling-related actions or behaviors. Experiencing 4 of those 9 in the past 12 months is an accurate indicator for a diagnosis of a gambling disorder. Going down that rabbit hole of criticizing a report tonight would only result in a did not, did to, does not, does to calamity. I anticipate the completed report will be placed in a 3-ring binder as a living document as we all watch to see if the casino achieves success or if it fails financially and closes before 2028. Either way, I will continue to emphasize to the entire community that nobody ever said the Happy Valley Casino was going to be charming. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Anything that hasn't already been addressed?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'd like to start off with the fact that I do appreciate the thorough
Actually, you
research.
need to start off with your name.
Oh, yes, that would be a good place to start. Starting at the beginning is usually a good thing. My name is Brandon Daubenspeck. I live in Banner Township. I'm quite close to the Nittany Mall and the future site of the casino. And I would like to say that I do appreciate the thorough research of the Convergence Strategy Group, and as well as Andrew's thorough review of said research, as I had not had the time myself to review the full document. During the comments that were made today, I was a little bit worried that as things were being phrased, we were addressing topics such as domestic violence and bankruptcy and suicide and drunk driving and divorce. And we were talking about the statistics of this. Now, we live in an incredibly safe community. We all are aware of this. This is a small community. We're very tightly knit around here. Many of us know each other. And I think a lot of us like it that way. So to hear a comment that a small number going up might show as a large spike on a graph to think of, and I do appreciate that Convergence Strategy Group did bring it back around eventually and talk about the individual impact of that, because that's what's really important to us as a community, is the individual impact. Seeing a small spike on a graph to someone outside of State College isn't going to matter to them, but it's going to matter a lot right here to us. And what we're really talking about at the end of the day, if you boil all this down, is what amount of money can come from gambling proceeds that makes that spike in the graph worth it. Because none of the data in that report spoke about the line going down. It either stays even or it goes up. So how much money is domestic violence worth? How much money is a bankruptcy worth? How much money is a suicide worth? That's a really tough question to ask yourself. I know my family has personally in the past been affected by gambling. And I'll tell you, just because divorce doesn't go up, if you are in massive amounts of gambling debt, getting a divorce doesn't get you out of that gambling debt. It follows you. You can't leave someone that you love and absolve yourself of all of the debt they've accrued. It doesn't solve a problem, it creates more problems. That's personal example that I just had to put out there, because when I heard the divorce statistic, I thought, what could that possibly have to do with the effects of gambling? So given the fact that what we really are talking about is what amount of money is worth the costs of having a casino, because we are getting a casino. we need to think about, as a community, what do we want those proceeds to go to? How best can we apply the proceeds from gambling in this community to put more good back into the world? Because at the end of the day, we want a safer community. We want a happier community. We want a better community. So to look at this problem, which it is, we're going to see the lines on the graphs go up. People from the outside will look in and say, well, that was only a 5% increase in that or a 10% increase in that, but it's an increase. The people in this community are going to be impacted. And how best can we take that money and apply it to the community so that at the end of the day, we're putting more good into the world than we're taking out. We're making it safer than we are making people scared, putting more evil into the world. So this is less of a discussion of the overall impacts of the study, which I did not have the time to read in full, but I appreciate Andrew filling me in on the synopsis ahead of time, and I appreciate the presentation today. But this is more of a call to action to really consider what we want that money to go towards, because that money comes with a cost. I appreciate the time.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. I'll start out. I think we received Andrew's comments in writing. I think what we heard tonight were a number of concerns, cautions, suggestions on other areas, on deeper dives possibly in the data that we have. We heard an appreciation for our start here. We did this for some of the reasons that have been identified tonight by the speakers, but we didn't anticipate this would be the end all. You know, we anticipated this would be the start. So I really didn't hear anything that I feel I need to address back with our consultants. What I heard was concerns and comments that we would collect, as we always have through this entire process, and use as data points right alongside of what we got tonight from Convergence. Anyone else feel differently? Please feel free. If we want to open this back up, if you want to follow up with the consultants while we have them online. Rich, Susan?
I don't have anything to follow up with them, but I just jotted, periodic update, to these. We'll set our own data points. We'll start being part of the answers, hopefully. I think the last gentleman said it well. We can set the stage.
Susan?
No, I think what Rich said is spot on, and I appreciate the comments and the concerns, and we take them seriously, and I do think this gives us an opportunity to do something as a community that other communities haven't yet even thought about. And so we will do those periodic checks, look at our community partners, and do what we can.
Dustin?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for getting up to speak and looking at it. Overall, I would share just my disappointment with the overall limited data set, that appears to be obvious. And again, to that, on the flip side, the positive is that, we have committed, and I'm recommitting, and we're recommitting right now to be part of gaining more data, right? And really, not continuing to, not just stopping, right? And just, doing what we can to gather more data. Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo what everyone says. In addition to understanding that, I think the best information was given with the limited data that they have, and appreciating the process, and just echoing, like, we can be a part of the solution and not the problem by collaboration and community, and finding ways to prevent these things. Now that we have at least a little bit of information, it can help us go a long way. So no information gives us nowhere to start. At least some information gives us somewhere to start.
Yeah, you know, following up on what Susan and Tracy said, you know, this is a start, we can use it. Maybe we can use the Gaming Commission's own competitive nature as it relates to wanting to be better than Massachusetts to our advantage, to leverage some funds to, you know, take this information that we've received so far you know, to dig deeper and to take it to the next step. And then one last thing. I think Rich and I were part of the council that visited Hempfield. And I appreciate what Mr. Schaefer put together, but it doesn't surprise me at all what the official from Hempfield said, because they opened the casino right at the start of COVID. And yeah, if they budgeted revenue, that was their own fault. And I mean, they opened right at the onset of COVID, so you know, that's just the luck of the draw there.
Just one follow-on thought. I mean, throughout this, from the very beginning, it hasn't been about the revenue.
No, it hasn't.
It hasn't been about the revenue for College Township. So, if it's less, okay, but
yeah, working with the mall has been tough, but we've been pretty diligent. All right, any follow-up from staff before I call the question? All right, we have a motion on the table to accept the report provided for us tonight. I have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, then all those in favor of accepting the report as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Report accepted. On behalf of council and staff, I want to thank Susan and Dr. Fisher for their time, their effort, their product. If we're able to leverage the Gaming Commission's competitive nature to go after some grant funds, maybe we'll see you in the future. All right?
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk with all of you today.
Really appreciate doing this work for y'all.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll let you go. We have 3 more business items to attend to. Feel free to leave the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Do we need a recess? We good? We're good with having a recess?
Just forge ahead.
What's that?
Just forge ahead.
I can.
All right. That concludes OB1. That takes us to OB2, Clearwater DCNR grant request. This is an action item, but I believe Mike's going to introduce this for us. Is that correct?
Sure, yeah. A little background, and then I'll introduce our special guest who will bring it home for us. As you'll recall, back in March of 2024, College Township agreed to serve as an applicant on behalf of Clearwater Conservancy in pursuit of a Community Conservation Partnership C2P2 grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. That application, College Township's application for $300,000, was successful, and funding was earmarked for use on the ADA trail and parking area aspects of the overall project at the new Clearwater Conservancy Community Conservation Center in Houserville. In May, unfortunately, Clearwater and their respective consultants received a series of bids for the project, and those came in significantly higher than expected. And as a result of those increased costs, Clearwater has met with DCNR about the prospect of increasing the C2P2 grant award. That kind of leads us to tonight. And I want to introduce Mr. Ford Stryker. Ford remains a board member for Clearwater, correct? A volunteer to Clearwater? Volunteer at this point for Clearwater Conservancy. And Ford's going to kind of walk through the request before you this evening.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, really. The scope of the grant that we requested, excuse me, from DCNR was for the parking, the drive up to the parking lots, and then a trail down to Spring Creek. And all in, the estimate for that was initially around $940,000. Unfortunately, after we got the bids, it was more like 1.5 million, so we were over. I talked to the folks at DCNR. They have a process where you can seek an amendment. Typically, it's 25% of the grant amount, which would be $75,000, but they said we could ask for more. Their committee meets once a month, and we'll see what happens. But my request would be that you go ahead and approve this and submit the grant request. Obviously, if we could get some more money, it would definitely help the Conservancy fund the project. If we don't, the Conservancy has other ways to fund it, but obviously more money from the state would be really helpful. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Questions for Ford before we consider action? I think that's a good sign, Ford. If that's the case, the chair will entertain a motion to, to authorize submission of the C2P2 grant resolution request to DCNR.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All right, same as before, right, staff? We're the grantee, we're the required grantee.
We do remain the grantee, correct.
Okay.
And that's a draft letter, right?
Correct, yeah, included in your packet was a draft letter. Unless you have any concerns with that, that would be the letter that you would ask the chair to sign and submit.
You wrote that up already?
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, action, comments? It's an action item.
I think it's a great idea. Can I comment? Oh.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. College Township will continue to support your project as we have in the past. And of course, hopefully maybe this is the last grant request, but.
I hope so. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for your support. Susan, did you have a comment? No. Oh, I thought you
Oh, no, sorry.
Wait a minute.
Thanks for your patience.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes OB2. Takes us to OB3, the 2026 Spring Creek Watershed Commission budget. Again, an action item. This is a follow-up from our discussion on consent agenda item 2 weeks ago. Is that correct, Adam?
That is correct. Yeah. Essentially, this is a document that was received by College Township Council at the last council meeting. It was pulled from correspondence, and after a brief discussion, it was determined that this best should return to the council as a regular agenda item. It's here this evening. With us this evening from Spring Creek Watershed Commission is Lee Murphy, the College Township appointee that serves as a representative to the Spring Creek Watershed Commission. I believe that you brought along also your Spring Creek Watershed Commission staff.
Correct, yes. I'm Lee Murphy. I'm the township's alternate rep to the Spring Creek Watershed Commission. Dustin is the rep. What I have here is Elise Johnson. She is the leader of the Commission's Stormwater Work Group. So she is a person that we will be expecting to do wonders that we have not seen perhaps in past years. Thank you. Okay, anyway, it is budget time. And so that's a really good time to look at not only the dollars, but what we're going to get as a township for those dollars. In terms of a little bit of background on Spring Creek's situation, the water quality is in decline. It has been in decline for a long time, and the principal problem is our impervious surfaces and the stormwater that those impervious surfaces generates. So it's not the sewage treatment plant, it's not the farm, it's all of our impervious surfaces. So what I'd like to do, just in terms of giving you some hard numbers and facts and expert opinions, is run you through a quick summary of what Jason Dittar presented at the State of the Watershed meeting last March. He said, his words, his numbers. The watershed needs help. The problem is increased population and development. Water quality and quantity are in decline. we are on the edge of maintaining a world-class fishery. And the tourism, recreation, and high quality of life that provides. We need a community that cares. Public involvement and advocacy are key. But we are at over 20% impervious surface, which is a huge amount, given that the documented threshold for a quality fishery is typically 10 to 12%. So we're over that, well over it, which is not sustainable. Again, these are his words, our expert. And what I like best of all is what he said, is what we have is a triple whammy. W-A-M-M-Y, whammy. We are taking more out of the watershed by taking more from the wells for drinking water. We are recharging less. Less is going into the groundwater because of our impervious surface. It runs off instead. And we are putting too much back into the stream when it rains. So we are not doing our part to ensure the long-term viability of the watershed. And Spring Creek is therefore a water-stressed environment. We have a problem. What we're doing, those were his words, and now these are mine. What we are doing is slowly killing Spring Creek, just a little bit at a time, because of our impervious. Now, with respect to MS4, we'll hear more from MS4, but what you need to know is, of course, we have a quality program here, I think so. And that comes from my experience when I was at DEP. It was always my impression that we have a quality MS4 program here. But we need to recognize that MS4 sets a minimum statewide expectation that all MS4 permittees are expected to deliver. So it's a minimum requirement, and it does not guarantee a resultant quality of water. It's the basics. And there is nothing in the MS4 program at all that requires us to do anything with our existing impervious surface. It's just not there. It's not part of the program. So we should expect that if we're content with where we are and where we're going, we'll continue to see a decline in water quality. And why is that? Well, think about how much of our development was put in place, was constructed before 2010. It's most of it. And back then, there were basically no requirements for stormwater. Our major concern was one of engineering. Can we get the water to the stream without causing a flood? It was a major concern. Now, since 2010, yes, we've had stormwater requirements. We've constructed stormwater detention ponds all over the place. I'm sure you've seen that. And that helps a lot. But of course, the requirements that have been in place since 2010 could be tightened and could deliver a greater degree of control than we have today. But it is what it is. Again, we satisfy the statewide expectation, but we could do more. Okay, so what could we as a township do to address this? And I was just thinking about this afternoon, and I just little brainstorm on my own. What we could do is ask our staff for their ideas on what best management practices might we build, or might we create an atmosphere where others might build. Can we do some creative thinking? And the people that know the township the best in many ways are the township staff that are out there, driving the roads, and the engineers who are actually grappling with the technical problems. They're a great resource in my mind. So what ideas do they have that we might foster a creation of that solution. So that's just one thought. Ask the staff. Could we contact the owners of some of our big developments? Like say, my favorite is actually Hills Plaza, because I'm there often. I mean, imagine what happens on a hot summer day at Hills Plaza and the surrounding state roads and et cetera, all that development there. So on a hot summer day, we've got temperatures of what on those roofs and all the parking lots? 120 degrees, maybe? We get a thunderstorm, bang, and we get 1.5 inches of rain. So that stream was probably already almost dry in midsummer. Okay, very little cool water there, and we blast it with hot water. So that temperature will certainly kill most anything that needed cold water. And not only that, because it's such a huge volume and rate, it'll erode the stream banks and put an enormous amount of sediment in the stream, which buries any remaining life. So that's what we have today. So I would just wonder, the second idea might be, could we contact the owners at a place like Hills Plaza and see what they might be willing to do, perhaps with some help from us, because they're not required to do any more than they have today. A third idea would be to participate in maybe a regional effort to create a tighter stormwater ordinance. Now that's something that I don't think should be done in isolation as a single township. First off, we need to have a fair, balanced approach towards stormwater control for the region. We also don't want to confuse our engineers and contractors by having a different requirement right over the township line. So the vision I have is, why not get together, create a model ordinance for the region? You know, maybe our favorite state rep, Paul Pickett, could have a role in that. He might. Have I asked him that? No. That's your job. That's your job. But I think that there's room for us to tighten our stormwater ordinance so that we stop making the problem worse, which is what we're doing today. Okay, so anyway, we do have a budget. Go back to the dollars and cents for a moment. What do we have? The commission is asking for an increase of $1,077 to a total of $2,691. So, well, why does that make sense for us to support that? Well, I would like to demand more of the commission in the coming year. I would like to have them, since we now have quality staff that's running a particular group that's going to be developing VMPs, how about if we have them present to us their goals, their strategy, their methods, their activities, and we expect them to give us an update, say every 6 months, something like that. Again, I'm just brainstorming here, because what I would really like to have is some input from you that I can report back to the commission to show why we are willing to support an increase in the budget. Sure.
So I just wanted to, again, I'm the watershed coordinator with the Spring Creek Watershed Commission. So Lee spoke to the Stormwater Work Group, which is fantastic. The
Hey
watershed.
Lee, could you pull that mic down a little?
Yeah, sorry, I'm very short.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, but the Watershed Commission's been a long-standing partnership of local government since 1996 to help steward Spring Creek. And so historically, it's had a very low per capita. And so now we've graduated to being able to have capacity building. And so I'm able to sit in on this Stormwater Work Group, the Governments Committee, Authorities Committee, Conservation and Stewardship Committee, and really kind of carry a thread through all these efforts that have our water authorities, conservation partners, everyone kind of stepping forward together. So that is one of the biggest benefits of this increase in the budget, is the availability to have capacity overseeing and coordinating these projects that are being brought forward.
And the increase in budget has a lot to do with our ability to pay a lease for a time.
I will say that you sat through 2.5 hours of this meeting. You are wholly entitled to as much time as you need.
No, I would like to take that time to pump some ideas. Well, first off, can we support that increase in the budget? I would hope the answer is yes. But what should we expect in return? What do you want from the commission?
All right, this is an action item, right? We turned this into an action item, didn't we?
Yep.
By pulling it from the consent agenda and putting it on there. So why don't we why doesn't the chair entertain a motion to approve the amount, and then we can get into that discussion as part of the motion.
So moved.
So moved, do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right. Now, question on the motion. Does anyone have any thoughts in response to that question?
Yeah, I mean, if I would, yeah. Yeah, just to lead out, I guess. Yeah, first of all, thanks, Lee. Thanks, Elise. I mean, honestly, I think we have the right people, representing us. What you had spoke to, Lee, was excellent. I know, Elise, from your previous work and how you're coordinating, right? What we have, right, I am fully committed, although, we look at even a quarter. I think we had talked at the time we made it 15 cents. Why don't we make it more? And so I think, it's a minimal amount to really continue to show our commitment to a regional entity that really is even larger than our MS4 team, right? That includes, even greater, all of the Spring Creek watershed itself. So, that is something that doesn't come along all the time when you start looking at government collaborations. And to Lee's point, I think it's going to take, and it has to take, a regional partnership to, fix what we have going on. So absolutely support that increase, but with a caveat, to Lee's question, that, I think we need to see some progress for our money and our investment, if you will, right? Because as we know, we've come a long way in the last few years at the Watershed Commission, where we were fledgling and maybe even, breaking apart just a few years ago, to now where we're, have full-time staff. But we need to get more feedback and collaboration with Commission and us, much to like what we have with some of our other committees and commissions and such, and authorities that that we work with them and understand that. That's all I have.
Anyone else?
Well, I do have something to say. You mentioned some of the problems. I say this some other time before about, are there other townships or issues that are out there that currently are being solved? And how are they solving them? Is it some way that we can pattern after? You know what I mean?
Sure. The one that I'm most familiar with is in Chester County.
Okay.
What they have there is basically, if you build anything bigger than, I think it's 500 square feet, something on that order, you're required to install whatever methods are necessary to deal with the stormwater runoff from that structure, okay, typically. Whereas in our case, our current ordinance here, is we don't have any requirements at all on 1- and 2-family homes. Okay, to just as an example. So we have a series of exceptions that we allow, and where we do invoke a requirement, we could expect the detention pond to be larger, for example, than it is now. We could use different engineering calculations to require more control. We also could expect to use retention ponds instead of just detention ponds. And in short form, the difference is that what we've typically used are detention, which what that does is captures the stormwater flow and then slowly releases it. So that water still doesn't infiltrate into the ground for the most part, it does run off, it just doesn't cause as much of a flood. Whereas if you do a retention, the whole goal of that pond is to put as much of the water as possible into the groundwater. You can't do that everywhere, especially in karst geology like we have.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll just end up with a new sinkhole. So it has to be done with geology in mind. So, but there are things that we could do to tighten it up, and in Chester County, it's the most strict that I'm familiar with. We also have places like Meadville, Pennsylvania, which wasn't required to even have an MS4 permit, and they chose to. They applied for it anyway. So we do have some examples around the state. Most of the state, I think, just does what it's required to do. So it's no real surprise that we are where we are, because that's a local government prerogative, and we are reluctant to impose requirements that cost money that we might avoid. But here there's a choice to be made between the quality of the stream and those kind of obligations, and it's your call on where we go.
I have a second part to that. And then the second part to that, since we know the information, is there like data to show like what the benefits were in doing these types of changes or to the resolution? What have you, what have been the benefits? Because I think that that's important, like the trade-off, you know, in incorporating it and being a little stricter. What's the trade-off?
That's a good question. It's also a very difficult question.
Okay.
You know, what are the benefits of having a Class A trout fishery? You know, I suppose someone could, you know, conjure numbers and try to put dollars and cents to that. I mean, I can't. I know what I heard the Fish Commission say, that they believe that there is a substantial, you know, benefit, and not only dollars and cents from going to the fly fishing store, but also the bigger picture that we all value having clean streams. Yeah, our kids can walk in the stream, okay? We don't have to worry about them getting sick as a result.
Right.
And just one general thing, yes. So we do bi-monthly educational presentations where people could come in and spotlight different projects. So if there's anything the township is ever interested in, like having us bring an outside community in, so that the municipal appointments can hear about that and bring that back to you, we're happy to do that. And annually we have a State of the Watershed event where we get together the different people in our watershed, the Susquehanna River Basin Commission, Fish a Boat, and they come together, and that's really what this stormwater work group came out of, is those recommendations and conversations. So it's nice that they are happening annually and different partners are bringing data to the table. But I know Lee's background is with DEP, so we definitely understand these issues. The Watershed Commission, not being a regulatory agency, is really here to support all of our members however we can in making the recommendations and helping them with the process.
Thank you.
What I would like to do is maybe draft something that we might take back to the commission and run that to Dustin and see if, you know, gather his thoughts and see if any further involvement of council is necessary.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm done.
Okay. You had asked us for suggestions. I don't know that we were prepared to provide suggestions, but you certainly uncovered a few in your presentation, you know, in your responses and your suggestions. And I think I think I can look around council and agree that there is support for doing those things. And I would add that I often see the watershed at events, providing education and outreach. Just for example, the event at Tussey, I don't know who was doing it. Maybe you were doing it with the water and the
Pedals to Pathways event.
Yeah, my grandkids were there, and that connected with
Yeah, we had a stormwater demo.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you put all the stuff, and you poured the couple. Yeah, they connected with that. So that kind of stuff. If the budget supports that kind of outreach, I would encourage you to continue to do that, and if possible, expand it. Others?
I support the budget increase because specifically it supports Ms. Johnson's position. I think the work that you're starting to do and your understanding of the partners and the potential relationships is quite clear. So It's good to have you.
Rich?
No, I just offer, bring us some stuff to put our teeth into. I think you'll find recipients right here for it.
All right, Dawn.
There's a couple things I disagree with. Obviously, the money's not a problem, and I think the work that she's doing with the Spring Creek Watershed Commission is really a good thing. I've been on the Watershed Commission for, I don't know, 15 years, and Dustin alluded to it when he said a few years ago we were close to breaking up. Some of the townships in the hinterland, I'll say, were getting a little upset because there were a couple commission members who felt that it was time for this Watershed Commission to have teeth. They wanted the Watershed Commission to be able to make rules and then to tell the townships, here's our rules that we've come up with, we're the experts, you need to follow them.
This was the One Water.
No, this was even before that. This was just some ideas that a couple of the municipal representatives had that we needed to be regulating more than what, the Spring Creek Watershed Commission has been an educational feature more than anything else. And when it was monthly, we would have monthly meetings where we would have an educational topic every time. But there was a couple of people that wanted to turn it into a regulatory agency on its own. And I'm a little concerned when Lee talks about we need to tighten the stormwater ordinance. I've been working with our Act 167 ordinance since 2003 when we first adopted it here at college. And before I came here at college, I was reviewing plans, and the center region, for the most part, has had stormwater ordinances since the 1980s. Now, I would agree that those early ordinances, sometimes you saw a basin that had an 18-inch pipe going in, and it had an 18-inch pipe going out. And for some reason, water never ponded in that basin. Yeah, obviously it's because the pipes are the same size, but I mean, there was some poorly designed stuff. We've been trying to do things since the 80s in this area. The current ordinance, we had to update it. When's the last time we had to update our ordinance, Jerry?
September 2024. Okay.
And I think right now our stormwater ordinance is pretty good. It was originally done, all the municipalities, the county approved it in 2002 in the fall, and all the municipalities in the center, or Spring Creek Watershed, had to adopt a version of the model ordinance by April of 2003. So it's been in place for a long time. Had this ordinance been in place since 1800, I can guarantee our system would be a lot better than it is now. But I think what we're doing now with new development is very good. I think we need to do more with redevelopment. You list a really good example of a project that was prior to stormwater management, but I don't know that we need to go beyond what we have now for current development. I think our ordinance is very good. It has the volume and peak flow requirements. The old ordinances before 2003, they were all about peak flow. You showed that you weren't going to make it any worse than it was before this development, you were fine. And then they realized that volume is also a thing. And then that's where you get into the retention basins. But I just want to say I don't agree with the idea that we need to try to make our ordinance tighter than it is now. Now what we need to hope for is that on these bigger sites that were built before there was ordinances that they redevelop. Because when they redevelop, our new ordinance does have a trigger that existing impervious has to be, a certain percentage has to be declared as pervious, so that you start working in more infiltration. But with karst you have an issue. There's just some places where it's not a really good idea, but I just had to say I do have issues with trying to make it tighter than it is now. I think What was created in 2003, a lot of effort went into that. That was under the old program where DEP paid 75% of the engineering to come up with these programs. And it was Sweetland that did it. Some guy named Larry Fennessy, who you may have heard of, worked on that. And there was a couple other engineers there who were very good engineers. And they came up with, and I've worked in areas outside of this where we've worked with other model ordinances. And I think our Spring Creek Act 167 is one of the best. But I just had to throw that in there.
Okay, given that, we weren't really prepared to offer suggestions. We don't necessarily have concurrence or consensus, but we do have consensus on support for the budget. So I'm going to call the question on the budget amendment or budget amount, and you have members from other municipalities and other participating regions, and I would suggest that after you get some feedback from them, maybe you come back to us, or we can set aside a separate agenda item to set priorities or suggestions that we can reconnect with you.
Can I make one comment for clarity?
Yes, you can.
So with our stormwater workers, of the projects that they're looking at currently, most of them are on the groundwater recharge projects. That's in the brainstorming area, but of the list that we're looking for in the timeline that we've built out for the next 2 years, that's not a part of it, because we recognize that those were just updated.
Jerry, did you have any comments on this action, or are you waiting in the queue for next item?
Very quickly, if I may. I obviously support how MS4 works. I support how Spring Creek Watershed Commission works. One of the strengths of MS4 is education. One of the strengths of their role is education. One of the holes that I'm worried about moving forward with current administration might be in data collection. I think that's a real role that Spring Creek Water Commission might be able to step into. But also with our stormwater ordinance, as Don mentioned, MS4 is not a township-wide thing. It's an urbanized area thing. And we enforce that as though it's township-wide. And we took our ordinance that we rewrote and we added the look-back feature. We added this aggregating feature. We strengthened it beyond the state minimum so we could capture some of the quiet development that got done on the edges. So there's a harmony in a lot of what we do. If we get too restrictive on certain things, then people are just going to go somewhere else to do what they do. And then we don't have the revenues to correct some of the stuff that we have. So in all things, there's a balance. I think the Spring Creek Watershed Commission does a great job. I think the education arm is great. I think it can be married better with some of what we do on MS4 and some of what other community groups do. And so I think, the more we converse and the more we coordinate, I think we can link and marry some of these things. So, I certainly have nothing against the current direction that we're going, but I just want to add those pieces. Thank you.
All right. Well, at this point, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion as presented? I forget what it was now. It was to approve the budget. Right. All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Lee and Alish, thank you so much for your patience tonight, and also for your passion and commitment. Keep up the great outreach and education work, and we'll reconnect on the discussion that you were prodding us for tonight. We'll huddle with staff, talk more with Jared. We'll be better prepared to offer some feedback down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, that concludes old business already.
So soon? Already?
So soon? We're getting to new business before 10 o'clock.
All right.
Fortunately, there's only one item under new business, and that's our MS4 update. Again, this is an action item, but I'm going to give Jerry the floor before we consider the motion.
A few brief slides, and I'll couch this by saying that part of my role here with College Township is that I'm also the Harris Township engineer. So there has been a healthy working relationship between Harris and College dating back many years. When the original pollutant reduction plan was written, it was written with a sharing mentality between College and Harris projects. So this being the conclusion of that MS4 cycle, we're bringing it home. So go ahead, Mike. 2019, we started working on this in 2017 probably, but we published the pollutant reduction plan. College Township was going to fulfill their responsibilities by working with Penn State and Ferguson on the duck pond. They were going to share the Hauserville project with Harris Township. Nobody knew at that point Clearwater was going to buy it. It was just a working relationship with the Rockenbecks. And then Harris Township was going to do a military museum project that at the time, there were handshakes and everybody thought it was going to be a go, and ultimately it didn't happen. So the development, Clearwater has purchased Hauserville and actually expanded the footprint of what that can be. The duck pond allocation, Penn State does not need as many credits as they originally thought they did, so they freed up more credits for College and Ferguson. Military Museum fell apart for Harris Township. They were left with no active project other than the Willowbrook Basin, which was only about 15% of what they needed. And then the Millbrook Marsh project happened back here behind the building, where Trout Unlimited, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and their partners came in and did this habitat restoration. Clearwater's assisted with the riparian buffers. So in late 2024, we petitioned DEP that this project back here is within the urbanized area and there should be MS4 credit available for it. DEP said yes. So for the fall apart on the Millbrook Marsh side, we now got a large section of available credits that are zero capital cost to those who are willing to participate. In the next MS4 cycle, a draft permit was published in March. There were 1,500 unique comments, and we do not have a clear direction at this time what we need to do as a municipality for the next cycle. So that plays into some of my recommendations. We think it's going to be a little more focused on correcting basins, a little less return on investment for doing stream bank stabilization. We don't know, and so for that reason, you'll see me couch some of my wagers here in this presentation. So go ahead, Mike. The Hauserville agreements, College Township has already executed these. On the primary side, we're working with Clearwater. College Township is going to accept 57,500 pounds worth of credits and offsets. On the west side, there's 18,000, give or take, credits in play. But as we heard tonight, there's questions about the path. There's questions about how that all plays in. So with the development of these other credits, basically, I'm not looking at putting a lot of pressure on what I call the triangle. We're going to just kind of set that aside and let that develop per Clearwater. We don't necessarily need it all right now. The duck pond agreement, we got 12,000 more than we originally thought we were going to get, so we're at 35,000. And then Millbrook Marsh, there's 4,000 feet of stream back there. The first 1,200 feet, give or take, are offset from I-99, so they're replacing riparian buffer that got destroyed by the I-99 project, so that's ineligible for MS4. The rest of it, 3,000 some feet divided by 6 partners, 530 feet each, 60,000 pounds of available credits per partner willing to participate. So there's 170,000 credits in play. College Township came into this looking for 80,000. You're going to lose a couple when UAJA puts a line back in the boardwalk, or boardwalk does something, or as little projects get moved around, you need a little bit of a slush fund. You don't want to be up to the third decimal place. You want to have a little flexibility. So go ahead, Mike. So the plan, College Township has executed all these agreements. You signed off with Clearwater, signed off with Penn State, but on the sharing side, we've never actually signed a contract to give Harris any of their share. So that's what's in your packet tonight. That's the primary driver. Harris has been a willing participant since the start. This is to memorialize that they are a participant, and we're going to kind of work through this together. Hauserville, they've always been in for 5%. They're staying in for 5%. They'll chip in just like we chip in to help with the maintenance out there. Hauserville West, the triangle area, we're going to leave that there. The duck pond, if you remember this agreement, you are not paying for day-to-day maintenance. Penn State's just maintaining it. If there would be a Hurricane Agnes, or 30 years from now, if there'd be a major repair, then we are an active participant in that major repair. So what you'll see here is basically, if we're handing Harris some of these lower cost options, are also participating in that higher risk option. So go ahead, Mike. We talked about Clearwater, the main area here. Remember, this is going to have some utility crossings. This is going to have some other action happening here. So all The entire length may not be there, we might lose a few percentage points. Originally, I think we were looking at 6 figures to do a capital project. Trout Unlimited did it for us, so we're paying a little less than $5,000 per year to have Clearwater manage invasives, replant trees, keep this area clear. For the percentage that Harris would be allocated, they'd be covering their share of that maintenance, plus 10%, but it's dollars. It's not a major expense. And Mike, triangle on the other side, we talked about the path coming down through. And so, because that path gets into the riparian buffer area, by not putting pressure on them, we give them the latitude to do their best available educational project. We have other places we can focus for our MS4 credits. So go ahead, Mike. The duck pond berm, again, there's no day-to-day cost on this. It's just the risk that if we have a major storm event, at some point there's going to be a replacement of this. So the proposal here is to take 10,000 of these 35,000 credits and put that over on the Harris side so that they have those credits in their bank. Go ahead, Mike. And then Millbrook Marsh, Center Region Parks and Rec Authority met today at noon. We made the same presentation to them. They have accepted the idea that this is going to happen. They have the same draft agreement that you have in there. Their request, they don't really want to be managing the riparian buffer as the host municipality and an MS4 that can use it. They kind of look at College Township and say, why don't you do that? And while they should be on paper the agency because it's shared between 6 units, in practice, if our public works is helping to remove trees and that type of thing and taking that off of Parks and Rec, we'd be the ones that are kind of splitting up that cost between Patton, Harris, and College. So, go ahead, Mike. So what's next? Millbrook Parks and Rec met today. They have reviewed the language that you have in front of you. They are comfortable with it, so we would like to get those contracts executed. Annual reports, they're due to September 30th, so you know, Harris is standing here basically saying that they need to know which direction you're going. They can get by with just Millbrook Marsh, but they've been a partner in all of this through the whole thing, and they're willing to honor those commitments. So, again, the next cycle, we do not know what DEP is going to ask of us. So there is no point, in my opinion, when people are doing grant-funded work that is at no cost to us and it's hanging right outside our back door, that we would let it fall into disarray. Let's do the maintenance on it and find out what this next permit says. And if we need to revisit this in 18 months, we revisit this in 18 months. But right now, it's a black hole. We don't know where we're going. So while it puts us a little bit over the threshold of what we need credit-wise, I think we're talking about $5,000. I don't think we're talking about you know, 6-figure capital projects. And if it saves us from doing a 6-figure capital project, then you can thank the Harris Township engineer name. So I think that's the last slide I have. What you have in front of you are essentially the agreements to memorialize with Harris Township that they would accept a portion of Hauserville East, that Hauserville West is going to kind of hang out for a little while until Clearwater decides what they're doing, that the duck pond becomes shared not just between College, Ferguson, and Penn State, but that Harris is going to become a partner in that as well, getting some of those credits, but also assuming some of that capital risk that may be hanging out there. And then with Millbrook Marsh, at this point in time, contracts would be executed between the Parks and Rec Authority and individual permittees, not a 7-way conglomerate. Every one of the partners, with the exception of Spring Township, would have an area that would be, you know, available to them should they decide, Ferguson Township, Borough, State College, should they decide they want to come back and use some of that. We're not taking what would be theirs in a sharing opportunity. So we've set this up. This allocates everybody the credits that they need. Patton has not been able to complete their project as well, so They're participating in Millbrook Marsh. And that's where we're at in September of 2025.
All right, so there's a staff recommendation then to authorize execution of 3 different MOUs?
3 MOUs, that's correct.
3 MOUs, the ones identified in the memo, A, B, and C?
Yes.
The 3 options. Okay. Any questions for Chair before we entertain a motion? Rich?
Just 2, Military Museum project, that's 100% dead or maybe resurrected in the future, or?
So one of the aspects of these projects is that the permittee must have long-term control of the land.
Okay.
And, that way DEP can say, we approved, you did this riparian buffer, you have control of this riparian buffer area, it's not gonna become something else. And DGS basically came back and said that they could not commit to giving Harris Township control of that state land. So that's where it fell apart.
Okay.
Could we have a riparian buffer? Yes.
Yeah,
Would it be a regulated MS4 for credit riparian buffer? I'm gonna hedge my bets towards not.
Right, got it. And then just a comment that we should identify in any motion who's executing, whether it's the manager or the chair.
Yeah, because the sample MOUs are not in the packet.
They are, they just say College Township.
College Township, okay. Susan?
No questions.
Justin?
Nothing additional, thanks.
All right, let me get a motion, then we can go to questions if we get a motion. Then at this point, then the chair will entertain a motion to authorize the township manager to execute the 3 MOUs recommended by staff.
So moved.
So moved, do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Lee, did you have a comment or question?
I agree completely with what Jerry said.
Can you guys hear him? Okay, Lee, you're going to have to step up.
Okay. I agree completely with everything Jerry said. Just a point of clarification. The core of the MS4 program is all those standard things that all MS4s have to do statewide. It's education, illicit discharge management, construction, post-construction, and good housekeeping at municipally owned facilities. That's really the core of MS4, and these requirements are what DEP imposed on Chesapeake Bay discharges to protect the bay. So nothing wrong with this. This is absolutely correct. But let's not forget all those other things that the municipalities have to do also that are the core of MS4.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, questions on the motion? Further comments, any follow-up, Joe? All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Manager is authorized to execute those MOUs.
Thank you.
He volunteered, by the way.
Voluntold.
Yeah.
Voluntold.
All right.
One of my favorite words.
Look at that. We're done with new business already. That takes us to staff informatives. There is 6 staff informatives in our packet. Anything beyond what's in there that staff would like to inform us on?
No, nothing specific.
Any
Not missing
How about
anything.
unspecific?
Yeah. What
How
does
about
that mean?
council, any questions on SI 1 through 6? Just a quick comment that under SC3, the traffic signal impact status.
That would be my unspecific.
The work has commenced at Decibel Road. If anybody can buy the one that's referenced in there, the ped crossing and sidewalk. All right, if there isn't anything, we'll move to council staff and other matters.
Just one quick one, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, Center County Association and Township Officials Fall Convention is Tuesday, September 30th. If you haven't already signed up and are interested, talk to Katie. Just a reminder.
As long as we're doing reminders, Whitehall Regional Park ribbon cutting and grand opening next Wednesday, 3:30 to 6. All is welcome, including spouses, guests, children, grandchildren. Apparently, there's activities planned to support any guests we bring. And then lastly, I asked Katie at 2 minutes before 5 today if there was any chance at all that this could be provided hard copy, and of course there was.
Voila.
This is just, this is the document that was included in our exec packet that explains the grant process for what COG is going after, the grant source for which COG is going after for the electric vehicle charging station.
I have a question about that. Is that local share account
Was this in your
process?
packet?
Yeah. So is that from state tax revenue? So this is different than what will be the local share account for the county based on the casino revenue that comes in here. Is the process for applying for the grants different for state revenue than, okay.
Actually,
It's just a yes or no, it doesn't have to be.
The processes are basically identical.
Right.
But it's a dedicated source of funds.
Right.
Specific to Center County.
Yeah, no, I understand
Yeah.
that piece. I just wanted to know about the process, yes or
And the
no?
ones that I've seen for other areas, the host communities, the front pages are almost identical.
Okay.
It's just that it's a dedicated fund.
Yep.
It's surprisingly, remarkably simple.
Yeah.
You know, I was stunned.
And
This is all there is to it?
People
One-page
are,
resolution?
people are already asking about the county money in the casino. So it's helpful to have that. I mean, there are nonprofits, entities in town that are going to be losing funding and are concerned. And so, you know, there's been mention in the past about, oh, there's money in the county too. So helping them, referencing this will be helpful. So,
Yes. And the requirements are like one sentence.
They're very
Project
broad.
that contributes to the,
Greater
Quality
good.
of life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Infrastructure.
It's the most wide open grant program I personally have ever seen.
This was a very pleasant surprise to read through this.
The only caveat to what Susan just said, though, is
Has to go through
that
the
the
county.
eligible applicants are, well, I mean, they're broad, but it's counties, municipalities, municipal authorities, economic development agencies, redevelopment authorities,
Right.
land banks, and councils of governments.
So that's not code, is it?
Yes, council of government.
It is-
Council, oh, Council of Governments, so it's coming through the Council of Governments, okay.
But it's not nonprofits.
Mhm. But the nonprofits could potentially partner with the county. So I think that's an important
Well,
piece
with us,
to,
like-
yes,
Like Spring Creek,
exactly,
or Clearwater, I'm sorry.
exactly.
Spring Creek, yes.
But it's also helpful to know that the local share account is not limited to revenue from a host municipality in a county, that there's also state revenue. And I was asking, which tax stream is that coming from? Because it's not coming from the
That's coming from the
casino.
category 1s and 2s.
Okay, yeah,
So it's the big folks
yeah.
getting some of that.
Because our local share account won't have money in it for quite some time. I think the anticipation that it's opening up and there's revenue coming in, it probably 2027 earliest, I think.
Yeah, I would imagine it won't be the first year.
Yeah, no.
Anything else under other matters? Lindsay is signaling that she thinks the chair should open the floor for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
You're adjourned.
Lindsay,
Give thanks for literacy. Literacy means a life of increased safety, achievements, and community participation. For more than 50 years, Mid-State Literacy Council has empowered thousands of residents with literacy skills, improving their families' lives. Literacy builds our community. Help us celebrate literacy and support Mid-State Literacy Council by volunteering or donating to our Give Thanks for Literacy campaign, www.mid-stateliteracycouncil.org.
Are you looking for an affordable home located near school, work, and fun? Are you downsizing or leaving the area and looking to sell your home? Reach out to the State College Community Land Trust today. We have been buying, rehabbing, and selling permanently affordable homes in the State College Borough since 1996. We keep land in trust and homes within reach always, so that income-qualified individuals, families, and their pets can find their forever homes.